So, first of all, thank you for coming here, man.
Of course.
David Bush.
Yes, happy to be here.
Man, look, guy I know from working a lot in the film industry. I'm sure we've worked on something together, but I couldn't name a single thing.
My guess the last time, it's a long time ago, it was 2018. It was Backroads.
Oh, we did
Backroads up
together?
in St. Francisville.
Hell yeah.
I think that was the last time.
I remember Backroads, man. I watched it too. Did it come out under that title?
I think it did. It did, but it was one of those ones. There wasn't big ads for it. It wasn't theatrical. Yeah. It was, I don't know, Hulu or something.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It's a fun movie to make, though.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Good people.
What do you have going on right now, man? Are you writing, or what are you working on?
Juggling some writing projects in a couple varying stages. A lot of it's writing for other people, commission stuff, and I've got some projects of my own that I'm working on spec just to try and take them out and get them made, whether independently or with a company. And then there's some old projects I wrote that have I'm trying to get them circulated. So a lot of pokers in the fire. Obviously, not doing any set work right now because the industry just doesn't exist at the moment. But when it comes back, I might dive back into doing some script soup work. We'll see.
Nice. Well, I know you're a passionate man, and I know you write and you read a lot, so it doesn't surprise me that you got irons in the fire and that you're working on stuff. We obviously got a lot of time on our hands, like you said, because of the strike and everything like that, and all of our social medias have heated up.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it be the Kyren Lacy event and the new information coming up in that investigation as of late, whether it be the death of Charlie Kirk, who prior to probably a lot of people didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
And it stirred up a lot of emotions on both sides, whether you call yourself a super liberal person, a super conservative person, or somebody that's right in the middle. I don't care who you are. You had an opinion, whether you wanted to or not, about Charlie Kirk. And then you have, I guess, softer but still serious trending topics like Shedeur Sanders and what's going on in NFL talk. You like football at all, bro? You watch any football?
I am embarrassingly football oblivious. Like I like football when the Saints are in the Super Bowl. I become invested. I like football if I'm around friends and there's a game on and they're invested.
Yeah.
Then I'll play along. Other than that, like for me to be aware of football, there's a big scandal happening. I mean,
Kaepernick, right?
Yeah, or like God forbid, Bad Bunny is doing the halftime show like that. Obviously very facetious there.
Like,
I'm more honestly, I'm the person who watches more for the halftime show than for the football. No offense to football, rock on to people that love it and support it. I'm just woefully ignorant.
Makes sense. I mean, halftime shows are good in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely.
They usually. And Bad Bunny is going to do his thing. I mean, even though people, not everybody likes that. I don't speak Spanish very well, but I like good music. I like, I like instrumentation. I like performance value and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure you're going to put on a good show.
I mean, I think something people are. My issue with people having a problem with Bad Bunny, and there's nothing wrong with not liking Bad Bunny. If he's not your kind of music, fine. Like, you don't like him, okay, that's cool. My frustration, and this goes back to this idea of things getting inflated on social media, is so many people, I think they don't know a thing about him. Like they've never heard one of his songs, or they probably have. They've heard his songs on the radio or in restaurants or whatever. They just didn't know the name of the guy singing it. And now they suddenly are acting like they have a huge opinion, which is when it becomes suspicious that there might be ulterior motive. It was the same thing when people who have never heard say a thing about country music were suddenly freaking out that Beyonce was being considered for Country Album of the Year.
Right.
And I'm like, don't get me wrong. If you're a huge country fan and you didn't like that album for whatever reason, it's totally fair to say you don't like that album. That's fine. You're not racist for not liking that album. But if you've never had an opinion about country music before, and you've never had a problem with any other nominee, no matter how good or bad, and your first problem is Beyonce, like, it's hard not to notice the thing that differentiates her from all the other people you never complained about. So that's kind of how I feel about the Bad Bunny thing. I'm like, if you don't like him, that's fine. And I would never say someone is automatically racist or, Hispanophobic or whatever because they don't like Bad Bunny. But if it's a break from their usual pattern, you got to wonder why.
Yeah,
So
sit back
that's
and
what
ask
that's
yourself
what
that
drives me nuts
question.
about that.
For sure. Are you a big fan of Bad Bunny? Had you heard? Well, let me ask you this. I ain't gonna say a big fan, but is there a favorite song that you have for Bad Bunny?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a huge fan. I don't
So
know
he
that.
kind of got on your radar too when they announced him to be the performer for Super Bowl.
Well, I was aware of him. Like I was aware. I think I've listened to a Bad Bunny album or two. It's like I'll go jogging, and like his music tends to be very up tempo, very like heavy beat. And I speak barely passable Spanish. So like there was a bit of time where I was like really trying to grow my Spanish. Part of that was listening to songs that are predominantly in Spanish.
Yep.
So I was aware of him, and like I knew he was good. I mean, he's one of the hottest selling musicians in the world. He was number one for a while. It might be Taylor Swift again, but like
Okay.
he's not small. It's not
a
like
little
some
bit,
It's just not a quote unquote a diversity hire. Like how do we find a Hispanic singer? No, he's like one of the biggest stars on the planet.
Yeah.
He's just not big with Americans who don't speak Spanish.
Gotcha.
And like I'd seen him, he's been on SNL, and like he's been very relatable and funny on SNL. Like his English is not amazing, and on SNL he's been very like funny. But he's also like a fantastic philanthropist, which is great too, independent of the rest of it. So
Yeah.
I wasn't when I heard Bad Bunny I was not like yes, that's my thank God, but I was like cool, seems like a good choice.
I can agree with you on that. I may have come across it, but
Yeah.
I feel like I also may have never heard the name once in my life
Sure.
until they announced him to be a performer. And when they did, I didn't feel a way about that. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's gonna come with something different, something new, something I've never seen before, and it's probably gonna be fire because they don't go around hiring people to perform at the Super Bowl who are nobody and who don't have talent. So
Right. I do wonder, not to get like mildly, it's not even conspiracy theory-ish. It's just
Go for
like digging beneath the surface level of stuff. The NFL has recently done some stuff that is very not popular with liberals. Like this thing about banning rainbow, minimizing the allowing use of rainbows in advertisements and all that is it's pretty hard not to see some homophobic messaging in that.
oh man.
And I do wonder, and obviously there've been plenty of race-based issues with how the NFL handles things. I do wonder
Homophobic based issues as well.
big time,
you know?
and
Yeah.
and not so I wonder if, not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, if the NFL kind of deliberately, and same thing as getting Kendrick Lamar last year, if the NFL is like kind of, it's sort of their way of handing like a little branch to the left of being like, I know you think we're super bad and we're bigoted, but if we were bigoted, would we invite Kendrick to perform? And it's like, well, I mean, thanks, good. I'm glad that you are diverse. I wonder if it's, I mean, I am sure, ignoring morality just for like financial purposes, they take this stuff into account. Like they obviously think about like, who are we going to lose by bringing on Bad Bunny? Who are we going to gain?
Yeah.
Like, and I think they're probably running the numbers, and they're going, you know what? It is beneficial to us to no right-wing conservative is actually going. I say no. That's totally unfair. I hate when people do that. Very, very, very few right-wing conservative football fans are actually going to give up on football because they don't like the halftime performer.
Without a doubt.
Like-
They like to say it.
Yeah.
But they're not going to stop watching football.
Exactly.
And what you're getting at is a very true thing. Yes, a lot of the conservative base, probably a good grand majority of the real middle Americans watch NFL football.
Yeah.
And they have been for generations. And they've done so while watching all of the culture and things that drive advertising and stuff like that has morphed from, one type of music to another type of music
Big time.
to play in these anthems and commercials and to support their branding and stuff. So I think they come back, they love the sport and they love the pastime so much that it doesn't matter how far the NFL goes, they're still going to come. They're going to kick and scream
Yeah.
when Colin Kaepernick takes that knee, but they're still going to come.
Yes.
So that's, I mean, the NFL will play to that because at the end of the day, they're going to do, even though the majority of the ownership still aligns or identifies, I'd say, very much so with that middle American conservative sort of base. They like money.
100%. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like most companies, whether or not their personal private morality is generally good or bad, whether they're accepting or closed-minded, I think the vast majority of CEOs are gonna make a decision based on money, and it's, I mean, to some extent, morally they should, because they're protecting shareholders and whatever else. But yeah, which again, they should still do the right thing, and if they do the right thing for money reasons, okay, cool. At least it was still the right thing. But yeah, I don't think that it's just decisions based on what's right or wrong. I think they're very aware of the bottom line. They can't not be.
Nah, that's actually a good pivot to Charlie Kirk, because the NFL, I think it was only 4 teams that, was it 4 teams? I don't want to get this wrong. Was it 4 teams that actually paid tribute to Charlie Kirk, or was it 4 teams that
I
did
don't know.
not?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's a terrible podcast host.
Yeah. No, not at all.
I'm pretty sure what it was, though, is that there were only 4.
Right. Some teams did, some didn't.
The Saints were 1.
They did pay tribute.
That did.
Okay.
And it was met with some backlash, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, because I would imagine, because, you know, New Orleans is a very heavily black populated city. And when people learned about Charlie Kirk, the first thing they saw were, you know, he basically got relegated to some of his most popular comments or quotes over the years, right? Like, nobody, you know, a lot of people didn't really take the time to go and sit down and watch every single little video debate that's come out about Charlie Kirk, as he's been on the scene for, I don't know, a decade plus.
Yeah.
But they basically bogged it down to the 1965 Civil Rights Act was a mistake. That if I saw a black person in a certain position, that I would hope that they were qualified. That if that black women do not have the brain processing power to be trusted to make decisions, and a whole host of other things. Yeah. That we know that he said. We don't have to debate whether he said them, because he said most of, just about all of this stuff on video. Yeah. Right? He's existed in the digital age.
Absolutely. And I think there have been a lot of frustrating reactions to me, and to establish like where I was regarding Charlie Kirk. I'd heard his name, and I'd seen just clips of him on like other news things. Would say like, you know, Charlie Kirk says this, and I'm like, okay, neat. I knew he was a, you know, kind of an influencer and a political commentator. I knew his thing was he was a young guy, and I knew he was very right wing, or very right leaning at least. Yeah. I didn't know much about him beyond that. And then when he was shot, of course, it instantly is all over the news. And my like immediate reaction is like, well, this is horrible. You know, a person got shot in a crowd. Like, that's terrible. Right. It's horrible that, you know, for everyone around involved. In the same way, like when someone shoots at Donald Trump at that rally, I'm like, I aggressively dislike Donald Trump. Yeah. I certainly was not glad someone shot at him. Even if I hated him, I would still think that it's a horrifying thing for some lunatic to be shooting a rifle in a crowd. Like, what? Anyway. And to kill somebody like that in such a visual way is horrible. It's just bad. Then I started seeing, you know, the defense of him, and then the demonization of anyone, not just for celebrating, but just for not defending him. And then I started seeing all of the most popular quotes, and I think it's worth differentiating. Like, most popular doesn't necessarily mean like the ones people liked the most. It's the ones that were the most incendiary, the ones that were the most, you know, inflammatory, the ones that would get clicked on and repeated. And like this lunatic argument of like, well, you got to listen to everything else he said. The man made, I think, like 3,600 episodes of his podcast, and it's 4 hours long. I'm like, what psychopath? No one. Has anyone listened to all of his stuff? I don't know if he's listened to all his stuff. This notion that like you have to hear all of it to understand. And like, I don't buy that. Like, I get.
And the thing is, the message, not to cut you off, bro, real quick, but the issue with that is the message hasn't changed.
No, that's
like
true.
Like, he's been on the entire time he's existed. It's not like we're bogging him down to something he said one time, and that he evolved from that, but we still want to hold him to it. Charlie Kirk was firm in his
Oh,
convictions.
he's stuck with it. And like I saw comparisons after the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing happened, and people said, well, you know that Jimmy Kimmel said some really bad, really problematic things about women, and he did blackface, and I was like, okay, when? And like, well, it was 25 years ago at the start of his career, and he has since got ahead of it and said publicly, like, look, I made these jokes, I said these things, they were not appropriate. I do not stand by these jokes. At the time, I thought they were funny. I'm not pretending. Right. And it's like, great, rock on. Show me Charlie Kirk saying, like, I really regret what I said about black pilots. And I'd be like, okay, like, he said the thing, he was accountable for it, he took it back. No, he's stuck with it. So this notion that, like, well, you got to go listen to what he said later. I'm like, I mean, sure, it's, if what I was trying to say is Charlie Kirk was just a racist, all he did was talk about race, all he was racist. And you wanted to counter that and say, well, actually, he had some really good thoughts about public education or whatever, I'd be like, okay, cool. Like, was he just a racist? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. He wasn't just an advocate of any one thing. Mm-hmm. He talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That doesn't make up for the fact that some of what he talked about was really, really bad. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, why?
And you know what? I looked at him as I would come across him from time to time, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, he's this presidential cycle's Richard Spencer.
Sure.
You remember that guy?
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of the first person I remember who began to champion this sort of what came to be called the alt-right movement. Mm-hmm. And where was his sort of ground zero? It was college campuses.
Yes.
You know, that was the whole place, is for me to get into college campus, rally around the conservative people that are already there, and call it what you want, yell at, debate, or whatever, all of the libtards. Mm-hmm. On the scene. And so, all right, cool. Charlie Kirk is that. I didn't realize, though, until after he died, that there was such a strong adult fan base support behind him. You know, I know his, what is it called? Something America?
Oh, Turning Point.
Turning Point. I knew he had that foundation, and it was kind of like, you know, but I was like, I know grown people now, since this happened, even in my own orbit, who, like many people we saw online, went hard behind this person. Like, this guy was, he was a great American. He was, you know, this, that. I listened to him all the time. I was like, oh. It's like,
yeah, I guess.
I didn't know. I mean, and it's just surprising because if you're going to, like, I heard somebody on my Facebook said recently, is like, you know, Charlie Kirk was, you know, he might have said some things, this, that, and the other, but he was, you know, he's a really intelligent guy, and, you know, this, that, and the other. You know what's hard for me to respect?
What's that?
And you tell me if I'm wrong,
sure.
if you've seen one, but I haven't seen Charlie Kirk debate an adult. I haven't seen any of those videos. Has he ever?
He has. I think he has, and he's gone on political shows where it's him being more or less interviewed by adult commentators.
Okay.
I think he really is.
How and I
yeah.
I'm gonna go after this. I'm gonna go take the time to look at some of these, because I'm curious how his tenor is in that type of debate setting to you.
I mean, he's arrogant, he's cocky, but at the same time, like, he is smart. I think he is a very, very, very smart guy. Or was, rather. I disagree very strongly with a lot of his moral statements, and a lot of his factual statements I think are objectively wrong. I can't speak for him, obviously. I would not be surprised if some of the things he said he knew were wrong, and he was being disingenuous because
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, which is
I guess my approach is wrong to question his intelligence.
Sure.
Because I think that's maybe where I miss it. Yeah, he's intelligent in the sense of somebody being educated in a good school and making good grades.
Yeah.
And can speak well and can write well and, you know, all of those things. But I like for people to show me something, to teach me something, right, that I don't already know. And the arguments that I heard from Charlie Kirk and the ones that he decided to champion, they are, they're ancient.
Sure.
They are ancient. And so when I compare him to somebody on the conservative side, I think of like Tucker Carlson, right? You know, you're familiar with Tucker Carlson,
yeah.
obviously. He's one of those bigger sort of, he's like the I guess the mainstream Charlie Kirk, if you will, in a way.
Sort of.
Right?
I think to me what differentiates the two
The next generation.
To me, Tucker Carlson, so like if you have Donald Trump at one end of the spectrum, and Donald Trump does not make cohesive arguments ever. He says a bunch of random buzzwords, a bunch of catchy stuff, and rambles about, and then occasionally has these catchphrases. And Charlie Kirk was considerably more clever at putting together an art. He was way better at sounding like he
Without
was
a doubt.
rational.
Yeah.
And Tucker Carlson was kind of in between. Like he would go on these like just angry, whiny, weird rambles. Also, Charlie Kirk, from what I've seen, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of his output, chose more just logical topics to discuss. Whereas Tucker Carlson would go off on the green M&M or like just random, just nonsensical stuff that just caught his interest.
Here's what I found to be different between the two, though.
Sure.
Is that Charlie Kirk seems to you go from a Donald Trump, right, who is the popular representation of the whole movement.
Sure.
I don't even think you need him to be smart. You need him to be rich. You need him to have resources and move around and make things happen, right? And then down from there, you have your news source in Tucker Carlson to start to get that message out, who's still pretty charismatic, who still has a little bit of money, not Trump money, but he's still, right? And then from there, you have all of your ideologues. I mean, very staunch individuals who can, in a very buttoned up way, go around and deliver the message in a Charlie Kirk, right? But they're all saying the very exact same thing, even though he can articulate it well. If you listen to Tucker Carlson, why do black people kill other black people at so much higher a rate than everybody else? The idea that black people are subject to harsher law enforcement and punishment than anybody else is a myth.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not saying to that, obviously. But
No. I know you
say
say that. You understand that this is what.
Right.
I mean, point after point after point after point. And the only difference I see between the two, Tucker Carlson and Charlie Kirk, is that I've literally seen Tucker Carlson get on his show, bring a scholar black man on, and absolutely get those points obliterated, right? With simple answers. Oh, well, black people are more of a danger to black people than anyone else. Well, that's the same for every group.
Sure.
White people are the biggest danger to white people, and
it's just the people around
the matter
you
of who you live around, right?
Yeah,
all of that study is out there, and everybody knows that. But if you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand that political back and forth, so you can smash that point and get right past it, then you end up looking like you're intelligent.
Yes.
And so this is what I get from Charlie Kirk.
I think
because he goes around yelling at a lot of 19-year-olds.
Sure.
And those 19-year-olds are very intelligent people, but they don't have enough man hours, if you will, with this type of simple political backlash. These simple things that you can stop move the conversation forward, really, when you see what I consider to be an attempt to deflect.
Yes. I think it's worth looking at like what draws people to like conservative values in the first place, like what draws people to embrace conservatism. And one of the big differences that I see is for liberals, a lot of the quote unquote rules are very difficult. Like they're difficult to figure out. It's like, okay, looking at systemic racism, looking at DEI, looking at like any of I'm hearing it too.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. This is the halftime show.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Go for it.
So I think one of the big differences between conservative ideology as a whole and liberal ideology is liberal ideology tends to be a lot trickier to define what the rule is. So like liberals, the aggregate of liberals think like, okay, slavery was horrible. Slavery itself is over, but obviously there have been repercussions that have lasted, in some ways amplified, ever since then. Trying to figure out how to solve it is incredibly difficult and complicated. Like clearly there are issues, clearly they need to be solved. Figuring out how to do it without taking things from people who did nothing wrong, without misassigning blame, trying to figure it out is tricky, but it's worth figuring it out.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
What happens when you have what you know to be considered some of the most intelligent white people in American society, politics, whatever it may be, go around and tell people, try to convince people that Republicans were the party of liberation in the 1800s.
Because technically,
and that
because
Democrats.
Abraham Lincoln was a Republican.
See,
technically,
you have to have a whole.
However,
why would you have to have that history?
like, what do you mean?
Why are we still in a place where we have to teach Americans that the Republican Party started as a radical Republican Party and its purpose was abolition, and that Democrats at that time were people like Chief Justice Roger B. Taney.
I'm going to disagree a little bit about. So the Republican Party, I think, yes, the most abolitionists were allied with the Republican Party, but the Republican
They
Party
began as the radical Republican Party.
absolutely. But like Lincoln was not a popular candidate amongst Republicans. Lincoln was a fluke, and when he campaigned, he ran. I mean, he said some horrible shit. Like he said he has the issue of black equality is not one he's willing to consider. He said he had no interest in removing slaves from the South. He said
How much of that would you contribute to having to play the game?
Oh, absolutely. But also, I mean, I wouldn't rule out that where he eventually landed, which is all slaves need to be emancipated, might have been him playing the game too. Like what Lincoln did, emancipating slavery, was phenomenal. Thank God.
There's such a range.
Right, exactly.
There's such a range, and I don't exonerate. There's a lot of black groups that look at it, go down the exact lane you go to say, hold up, before y'all say Frederick Douglass, this, that, the other. But here's the difference between Lincoln and Johnson.
Sure.
Andrew Johnson. You see what happened once he was murdered, right? You get a whole relaunched rebellion to the South.
Yep.
You know, he by the time you get to Rutherford B. Hayes, they're pulling those troops. You know, the ebb began, if you will, the flow.
Sure.
You know, Lincoln was the flow. You're not going to be perfect in that flow. Barack Obama didn't do enough for black people in his term. And so when we have that conversation about Lincoln, it's easy, I believe, to go and take a line from his speeches.
Right.
You know, he went from saying, "Hey, let's send them to Liberia," at one time, you know, to finally saying, "Okay, we should free up this," because he was playing that game with his people.
Oh, absolutely.
You would never get in a position to even negotiate the smallest terms for black liberation without giving a little bit. And so you got Thaddeus, who was also in the Radical Republic. That initial group of white men with the conscience of Frederick Douglass. It was an abolitionist party. Its primary purpose was abolition and fugitive slave laws.
I am ill-educated on the time period. However,
if we go and look at
Right.
if we look up the men,
sure,
and we go and look at things in Congress, letters that were being written to Congress in the 1850s during the Dred Scott decision and the Fugitive Slave Act and things like this. There's the reason we're coming to liberation is not because of Abraham Lincoln,
sure,
or the Civil War. It's mainly because there's rebellion all in the South. Nobody is safe. Nat Turner has rebelled. Denmark Vesey has rebelled, and a whole host of other people. You even have John White, the famous John White.
John Brown.
I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
And John
Leading these
Brown,
rebellions.
I would say John Brown arguably was one of the catalysts of the Civil War actually happening. I would bet that had it not been for John Brown doing what he did, good and bad, because he did some stuff that is really problematic. I don't think we would have. I don't think Lincoln would have been elected.
Movie.
Yeah, dude, oh my God, it'd be so good. Okay, sorry. So, but looking at you, even though we're talking about Lincoln, I think that is indicative of the Liberal Party. It's this thing of like let's analyze stuff. It's complicated. Lincoln wasn't all good or all bad. Like there's conflict there. It's messy. Conservative ideology tends to be very simple. It tends to be like either there is systemic racism or there isn't. Period. Either the climate is good or it's bad, period. Either you're male or female, period. Marriage is between a man and a woman, that's it. Conservative rules tend to be very, very, very simple. It's either there's a baby or there's not. There is no middle ground, which is why abortion is default wrong according to the farthest of right wing. Obviously, I understand that there are conservatives who feel differently about that. Conservative rules tend to be very cut and dry. Is she pregnant? Then it's a life. It has to be born. Liberals tend to have much more gray, more difficult ideology of like, we know that...
I'm going to push back a little bit.
Okay. Yeah,
because
please.
Black people tend to often agree with a lot of conservative whites on much of what you just went across.
Sure.
If you talk to most black people, they're going to tell you that you're a man or you're a woman.
Sure.
That's not all black people. That's the grand majority, though. I will assure you of that.
Yes.
If you talk to most black people, they will tell you that marriage is between the man and the woman.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not saying
that everyone who is liberal feels this way about their politics, or everyone who's conservative feels the other way. What I'm saying is like the mainstream conservative politicians, these are the points they're pushing, and mainstream liberal politicians tend to be pushing something in the middle. Mainstream liberal politicians tend to be pro-choice. Conservative politicians tend to be pro-life. Liberal politicians tend to be pro-gay marriage, tend to be pro-trans rights, or at least trans acknowledgement. Conservative politicians tend to say there's no such thing.
I think that's where the conflict for black people comes in with the liberal or Democratic Party.
Would you say...
Because they have a lot of conservative values.
Okay, would you say that most of these stem from Christianity?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Without question.
1,000%
we are way too
agree.
Christianized.
Yeah.
I talk about that, or we'll have another podcast about that.
Which again is... So I think the draw to being conservative, most people, and this is not to shame anybody, most people do not like thinking hard. It sucks. Most people do not like thinking about a thing that they believe and trying to figure out whether it's right or wrong. Most people want to take what they were told by their parents or their friends or whatever, or just whatever their gut told them, accept that it's right, and move on with their day. Or they want to be told a rule, and they go, okay, cool, I'll follow that rule, we're good. That's what most people instinctively want. Like evolutionarily, we want to be able to just make decisions quickly and not have to waste time wondering, oh shit, am I a bad person because I thought it was cool for her to have an abortion at 3 months, but actually it was 4 months? It's like, that's a pain to think about. So if you don't want to do the work of like thinking through every decision, the conservative rule set is easier to follow. And frankly, it's the same thing is attractive about many religions. Morality, an advantage of the Bible is it's a book and it says stuff. And if you have a thing that you're conflicted about, you can just go, well, Bible says this, don't have to think about that anymore, solved. I think that's the appeal. That's one of the appeals, not to say there aren't others, and not to say that those are bad, about conservative values. So I think then the reason that people blow up when it's like, hey, we're sad that Charlie Kirk died, and then, they demand an answer from me, and I'm like, yeah, it's terrible he died, but this dude did, I'm not devastated because this guy said some stuff I find horrible. That's what I'm saying. What they're hearing is everything Charlie Kirk said is wrong, and therefore your way of thinking is wrong, and they have to defend themselves. It's not defending this one of many racist things he said. In their mind, I'm telling them, because again, it's all or nothing. It's Charlie Kirk was good or he was bad. And so they have to defend that every single thing he said was all right, which means they have to twist things around in such a way to make a clearly racist statement not racist. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm telling them that, like, God doesn't exist. And that's the leap that, and to be fair, liberals do the same thing to a degree. I think where it's harder for conservatives is because the rules are so black and white, it's really hard to get in that gray area and actually accept, like, oh shit, I mean, again, I didn't listen to a ton of Charlie Kirk. Maybe, and honestly, I believe it, probably at least half of what he said I think is great. Probably, I mean, if he's just promoting like Christian values, most Christian values I think are awesome. And so probably at least half of what Charlie Kirk is saying, I would probably agree with.
You know what's sad?
Yeah.
I've never heard any of that.
Well, because that doesn't get reposted. And so this is the thing where I think he's smart. Charlie Kirk was very good at knowing how to get clicks. If all Charlie Kirk ever talked about was how much he loves family, sure, everyone would agree with him and no one would listen to him. He needs to get reposted by people. Liberals he needed liberals to post about how bad he was so that conservatives could defend him, so that he's in the conversation. It's the same thing with Dave Chappelle talking about trans people. It's the same thing about a lot of what Donald Trump says. Like with Kirk, and honestly, Chappelle is a pretty good example. Chappelle is not a stupid man. I don't think he's actually has any bigotry against trans people. I think Chappelle, unfortunately, used to be a genius comedian and has recently become somebody who knows that he gets attention if he dares people to cancel him.
It used to be one of those things that was just a part of the act, and now it's becoming a bit of a crutch.
Yeah, and I think he knows.
I get that.
He knows the more offensive thing I say, the more people will click on it.
Yeah.
And he's willing to do it. And Charlie Kirk's the same way, which is why, like, you and I were seeing a ton of like the most racist things Charlie Kirk has ever said, and they're pretty fucking damning. On the flip side of that, where I will defend the overreaction of conservatives, if not the ideology, is right after Charlie Kirk's death, there were liberals who were literally like playing the footage of this man getting shot and dancing and like throwing confetti.
Yeah.
That was 99.999% of liberals were not doing that. Like you said, most of us didn't know who he was, but some were. And those were the people that were getting, all over the internet. So for the conservatives, they're like, oh shit, this guy I listened to because I liked his values is dead. And the other side, as if it's all of us, are literally partying. And for that matter, some of these people may not have ever known that he said the racist stuff. Then the racist stuff comes out. And now they feel like, oh shit, I better defend the racist stuff. Otherwise, I look racist for liking Charlie Kirk before this. And they trapped themselves. And it's like, I get why people, if I liked somebody who was super problematic and they got shot and people were partying, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
Like, even if that person said some shit. But that doesn't mean that you can then demonize everyone who has any political, it's this massive escalation on both sides. And it's frustrating.
I think it's a lot of people who, on the conservative side, who didn't even know Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, agreed.
Who learned who he was and took up that mantle.
Yep.
And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people on the outside who saw all of the different comments that went viral.
Yep.
As soon as the man was shot, and took the most farthest left stance they could take on it. I personally was one of those people who actually kind of knew who Charlie Kirk was.
Sure.
Because I follow these people. There was a time where I'm sure it got on my wife's nerves. I've been married for since 2014. We've been together 16 years or something. 16
Amazing.
years. And there was a time where every night,
You watched Charlie Kirk?
If I didn't, no, not Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk probably wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? He came, like I said, he came on the scene about maybe 10 years ago. I've been doing this since 2000.
Sure.
Once I first became curious, I began to read. I do have a bookshelf over there with all kinds of black writers, Jewish writers. I dive into European history and the Romans and the Egyptians, and of course I got into our Bible,
Sure.
the book people love the most. And I feel like I've read a great deal of it and and put it together in my 20s and 30s. And then once I came down to surface level and just started to read American history, it crystallized. We're still in the midst of a civil war is my most hyperbolic statement, I would say, because all of the same rhetoric that Charlie Kirk uses, or Steve King of Iowa uses, or the Five uses, or Tucker Carlson, or Laura Ingraham, or Bill O'Reilly, all of these people are echoing literally what the Klan has propagated for over 100 years in America.
Yes.
You can find it on their websites. You know what I'm saying? They have taught generations this information and helped you be able to put it together in a way that you can politicize it. Because that's what we do now. We politicize blackness. When we couldn't kill, when they couldn't just outright kill you because you're their property, then it became a situation where now I have to dehumanize and by castigating you publicly, completely tearing down your image, whether it's through.
Can I ask why?
Caricature.
What is? And I agree with you 100%. What would you say is the motive to do that?
Well, because now you have to compete. When X amount of million black people walk off of a farm and into your society, you have to consider the ramifications of letting them have a vote.
So I agree to an extent. I think that is a false narrative that is being deliberately exploited, like you're saying, by the Tucker Carlsons. And I think it dates way before the KKK. I think it's literally like Old Testament. Like, I mean,
No, not in America, though.
No,
It
no,
doesn't,
no, 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 no.
Because there's no narrative
Well,
that needs to be created
right.
against a slave.
So I totally agree.
Right.
Well,
I mean-
I think the fact that it's racial, and the fact that it is
Because
is an
prior to
American thing.
1860, we have to keep in mind,
Right.
black people are slaves in this country.
Yes. Yeah.
We need not forget that,
Of course.
right?
What
So
yeah.
everything concerning black people, whether it be crime, there was none, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to demonize you in the public or anything because you're not going to nobody's trial.
Right.
If you try to run off this plantation, we will kill you if you're not valuable. If I
Yeah.
got 100 of you, you're going to die.
To clarify, I don't mean that like that specific rhetoric against black people.
Yeah.
Dates back to
Oh,
forever.
rhetoric, period.
What I mean is rhetoric of saying people who are, and this is the people in majority, the people in control, saying, hey, people who are different from us are a threat to you, is literally, I mean, that's Old Testament, and it's been used ever since. And the people who say it the most, I don't think Tucker Carlson is at all afraid of being replaced by a black person. I don't think he is in the slightest. But I think for people in power, the way that they get their followers to stay following them is they have to convince their followers that the followers are in danger and that this person in power is going to protect them. And the only way to convince your followers that they're in danger is by showing them who the threat is. And I mean, it's what happened with the Jew. It's what Hitler did with the Jews, is he said, hey, look, these people are going to destroy, I'm trying to protect you. I love you, people. I got to protect you from these people. In his case, it was the Jews.
Yep.
In American history, post-slavery, it has been black people ever since then. And then since, the 60s, 70s, when homosexuality became a thing that could be spoken out in public, it's also been homosexuality. Now that science has advanced to a point to acknowledge the existence of trans people, now trans people is a thing. What Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson are doing is, and everyone in that camp, and there are liberals that do the same thing.
Because,
Right.
and I'm sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off.
no, of course.
But I hate to bog it down to those two names, but they're just good standing representatives, right? I just want, just for our
Absolutely.
viewing audience to just say that because, he's we talked about those different levels, Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is not even somebody I consider to be racist. Donald Trump is a white supremacist.
Yeah.
But I don't really think Donald Trump cares or even really thinks that he's supreme because he's white.
Well, yeah, I honestly don't think Donald Trump, I don't even know if I consider him a white supremacist. He exploits white supremacy and exploits the ideology to get more power. I think Donald Trump
That's
is a
white
Donald Trump supremacist. I think if the 5 most powerful people in the world were all black, he would be rushing to ingratiate himself with those
Without a
people.
doubt.
I think Donald Trump is about Donald Trump, and unfortunately, and I mean, it's because this country is still predominantly white. White supremacy is one of the easiest tools for him to exploit, to manipulate people into
And does
thinking that
very
they're in
well.
danger, which is absurd.
So that's kind of the big point. That's why
Yeah.
when you ask me, right, why is there, what's the motivation?
Yeah.
It's because when you have X amount of slaves walk off of this is the part that, imagine teaching this in the class. And I think we've tried, and our Florida governor and others made a big movement to make sure because you can't teach American history
Sure.
in its entirety, right?
No.
And it's at the expense, unfortunately, or has been at the expense of black Americans. We get a chance to get around that now by all the ability to have your own platform and get out and talk and teach now. And all of the books and information and people who have taught this information for so long has been out there, which kind of wants, I want to transition here to maybe a last little bit of something that I could have you speak on.
Sure.
And it gets a little personal. So at any point, if you feel
Can
like
I go
I'm
back for 1 second,
go,
though?
go.
I think a
Because
thing...
I go all over
No,
the place.
no, no worries.
I want you to know I
Oh.
didn't prepare shit. I just came here to talk.
All good.
Go.
I think I agree with you about this concept of there being a war. I am optimistic in the fact that I think generally the side of people who are progressive and who are accepting are winning that war.
I'm also very optimistic.
And what makes me especially optimistic is when you look at Tucker Carlson, when you look at Donald Trump, when you look at even Charlie Kirk, when you look at these people saying these things that are flagrantly racist, or I mean, immigrant is the biggest person to demonize as a danger right now. They are clearly desperate. And what it reminds me of, there's a great book by Yuval Noah Harari, he wrote *Sapiens*, is his big famous book about like kind of human history. But one of the things he talks about in his like 21 Rules for the 21st Century, he talks about terrorism. And like the point of terrorism, one of the main points, is to provoke an overreaction. It is armies that are winning do not resort to terrorism. They don't need to. Terrorism doesn't just mean you blew something up. It means you targeted a non-military target for the purpose of getting a reaction. And if you look at what Hamas did against Israel, that was a terrorist attack. The goal of that attack was they wanted Israel to overreact. They did not think they were going to topple Israel with that attack. They knew it was mostly a suicide mission. What they wanted was they wanted to piss Israel off. They wanted Israel to overreact, and they wanted the rest of the world to stop taking Israel's side because of Israel's overreaction. That's what they were going for, and to an extent, they succeeded, which is horrifying. Oh, good. So I think a very similar thing is being done a lot right now by the right. It is this, you see it on Facebook all the time, where you see a person who is conservative say a thing that they're not going to say the N-word. They're not going to say something that, like, literally the words of it are inexcusably racist. They're going to say something to try and bait people into overreacting. Yeah. And I say overreacting. It's not an overreaction. Yeah. But what they want to do is, like, what I keep seeing them do is a conservative will say some nonsensical pseudo-statistics, and what they want is they want somebody to accuse them of being a Nazi so that they can then see, your side is encouraging violent rhetoric. I think
just to add to what you said, that's why we have to continue to educate, because that's a bullshit deflection.
It's horrible.
Because let me tell you something. Again, I've been watching these CNN and Fox for a very long time. That's why I know all of their people so well, going back to O'Reilly. And I know they've existed a little bit before then, but he was the first flagship, if you will. Rupert made sure of that. When you look at Fox News and when you change to CNN, the attitude and temperament are night and day.
Absolutely.
I've heard Fox News, I mean, with the exception of like a Chris Wallace or a Brett Baer, right? You know those two?
Yeah.
Chris,
yeah.
They stick Chris Wallace on a Sunday evening talking about TikTok videos or some shit. He's the most objective and honest commentator they have, nonpartisan contributor they have, and they made sure to hide his ass. Scott Brett Baer, I think his name. He gets a little bit, but you could tell he toes the line. He doesn't want to go full on Nazi,
right?
But he'll when he feels like they're kind of ticking him off a little bit, maybe getting less airtime, he'll give him a little something. Especially on the issue of police and shooting of unarmed black men or something like that. But the rest of these people, they have literally called their political opponents colleagues, really.
Yeah.
They'll get on TV and call you the devil.
It's desperation.
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 They talk about people that they're supposed to be in Congress negotiating with in earnest, like they are Hitler, the second coming of goddamn Genghis Khan.
Well, and this is the bananas thing. Like J.D. Vance said Donald Trump was Hitler. And then,
well, I've said it too. So
but Donald Trump's not going to pick you as his VP. That's the crazy thing. It's like, if you're going to use that kind of rhetoric, if you're going to say like Donald Trump is Hitler, then all of a sudden you're going to pretend you're his biggest supporter. Like that's what drives me insane, is the lack of accountability. Yeah. It's like, I am fine. I get that people who are emotional sometimes say something that's too big, or you say something that's more aggressive than you mean it to be. I get that, but to then all of a sudden pivot and say the opposite, and just ignore the fact that you are contradicting yourself, I'm like, man, that's sad. But
I mean, the power is always gonna trump things, right?
Yeah.
No pun intended. I mean,
Sure.
look at how long Jeff Sessions was around.
Yeah.
He was one of the most powerful
insane.
Republican. Where is
I
he
haven't
now?
thought
Where,
about him in
where,
forever, yeah.
where the hell is Jeff Sessions?
Oh man, wow,
You
that's
don't hear
wild.
from Huckabee no more. It's a whole new regime.
Yeah,
So it's not hyperbolic like that when you talk about the Third Reich.
I also have
this dude has. We've seen Michael Flynn come and go. We've seen who did he hire as the Secretary of Defense?
I don't
Bannon.
remember. Yeah, Steve Bannon.
We've seen him come and go. Bruce Miller, a little Nazi Bruce Miller, still sticking around. I mean, this all of the constituents in the Republican Party who come from a racist town where the Klan is. Let's be honest. They understand that shit can't. You can't thrive in this atmosphere no more. Those days are gone. They've understood that, and they have slowly. I know this now. Even though I hated a lot of these people then, I like Bush now. Bush was your standing representative who was trying to walk you the hell on out of this.
Yes, looking at
who was
John
trying to
McCain,
show you how to move and like learn to work with all kinds of people because you've been trained and you've only had to work with only white people for 500 years.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah,
it's not everybody else.
Not to derail again, it drives me nuts when a thing that the Conservative Party likes to do is they go, the liberals are focusing on stuff that is not mainstream America. They're spending all their energy on trans people, and they say the same thing about black people. It's like they're spending all the energy on a group that makes up less than 15% of the population. And it's like, hold on. That's not what's happening. Is the Liberal Party is looking out for everyone. That includes someone that's just 1% of the population. They're not spending too much energy on it. What's happening is you are then yelling at them for that 1%, and then they have to defend themselves for that 1%. So yes, they're talking about it more, not because they're spending. Liberals are not spending all their energy on trans people. Liberals were never spending all their energy on DEI. DEI is one tiny aspect of all of what liberals are attempting to do. And then conservatives yell and scream. And again, not all conservatives, but the loudest voices yell and scream about DEI. So the liberal voices answer back about that. And now they've made DEI or they've made trans rights dominate the conversation. And then they get to go, see, look, conservatives, we're looking out for everyone, for the majority of America, by which they predominantly mean white people, white middle and lower class people. And liberals are just worried about trans people and DEI. And it's like, no, we're not. It's just those are the things you keep yelling at us about. So those are the things we have to keep answering about. We're also concerned about everybody else, but you're making that a topic. And it's something that the right is very good at. But to me, again, I think the silver lining is they're desperate. It's so desperate. And it's a very scary time right now.
To me, Trump screams desperation.
Oh my God. He's so,
to vote somebody like that in, that's where we 100% agree. It absolutely screams desperation. That's the part I have, I think a lot of people, it's hard for them to get there because it looks scary. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it is scary. I mean, for once in our life, I mean, black people can, or have had the privilege, whether they realize it or not, to sit back and talk about it. You're not the one that's the most under attack, even though you're the one that's most often under attack.
Sure.
we're most often under attack, but I can't sit here and say that I'm honestly, goddamn battery. I can't sit here and say that I honestly feel more threatened than some of my Latino brothers and sisters. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Than some of my LGBTQ brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? Like, clearly, there's groups that are being more directly attacked. And I mean, I learned that some years ago when I did a Selma gig for Roland Martin. I was doing sound before I became a light. I was doing sound. So I went and swung a boom at the 50th anniversary of the march at Selma.
Oh, incredible!
Right?
That was awesome.
It was a sea of people.
You learned to operate a boom while crying. Like,
exactly.
Oh my God.
It was monumental. But it was one of the things I took, the craziest things I took from that.
What was that?
There were 5x7 pamphlets from the KKK all over the place, on cars, different things, right? And me being my asshole self, I'm in my hotel. I said, you know what? Let me call a number.
Oh, please tell me you had a conversation with this dude. You're like,
it was a like a voicemail, right?
Sure.
Giving you information, the website, and different things like this. And the final slogan was, "Be a man, join the Klan." And here's what I remember. I don't remember verbatim, but it gave a whole spiel before that. Be a man, join the Klan, and it was not about black people. It was about Muslims. right? Which
Interesting.
makes sense because I mean, this was not long after 9/11. This was
Right, and that was the group. That
not
was the
long
group to
after.
say these are the
maybe
people.
maybe
yeah.
around the time Trump just was getting in
Sure.
office, and he had his Muslim ban,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Remember that? So yeah, it was that. You know, we're not even the primary focus no more. Now it's it's gay people and to some and in some of the really really small towns that are old school, the old white knights of the Ku Klux Klan or the White League, they're going after Jews and all of this kind of thing. So
But I think you've made this point before, which is like, and not to in any way, lessen the situation that trans people or Jewish people or any other group are facing.
Yeah.
But like, I think part of the reason that Black people have pretty consistently been one of the groups that is being demonized by white people is it goes back to the intellectual laziness thing. If I'm going to tell my people you got to be afraid of somebody, well, Jews are relatively hard to spot. For an ignorant person, it's hard to differentiate who's Jewish and who isn't. For an ignorant person, it's hard to differentiate who's gay or who isn't, or even who's trans or who isn't. But black and white is relatively, if you want to convince lazy people that there's good people and bad people, going, well, look at the dark ones are bad and the light ones are good. It's just the laziest thinking.
Yeah.
And it sucks that then black people are a victim of how lazy that type of bigotry is.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fact. Let me ask you this, brother.
Yes, yeah.
You I'm not gonna keep you much longer.
No worries.
You know what I'm saying? But you're a Jewish man, right?
I was born Jewish. I was raised Jewish. I had a bar mitzvah. I mean, like, literally, I didn't realize this. I did a 23andMe. I was not aware that this was a thing that would happen. But, like, literally, my 23andMe comes back as I'm, like, 51% Ashkenazi, which is European Jewish. So, yeah, like, genetically, I am Jewish. Belief-wise, I subscribe to as many Jewish values as I do, Christian values as well.
Now,
Yeah, so like let's put it this way. From the perspective of an anti-Semite, I'm absolutely Jewish. Like if I was, I would be in the camps 100%. Now, do I do not attend synagogue regularly. My mother does, my brother does. But yeah, I would absolutely say
and again, man, if I'm out of pocket by asking
no
you any
worries.
questions, just
I'm pretty open.
these are things I'm curious about,
sure.
and I like to hear from a man that's read and has opinions and
Yeah.
ain't afraid to say it.
Of course.
Fuck.
Well, I'll say I grew up Jewish in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and went to a public school my whole life. So like my Jewish experience growing up was like I was the only. The schools I went to were super diverse. Like literally, my high school was 50% black, 50% non-black, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was often my brother and I were often like the only two Jewish kids in the school. And like there were teachers that like straight up voiced their opinions that like.
Where'd you go to school?
So I went to Buchanan Elementary, Glasgow Middle, and then Baton Rouge Magnet High.
Gotcha.
All in Baton Rouge. And I had teachers that like overtly were like the only way you're going to heaven is through Jesus. I had like lots of friends who believe this. And if I'd had my way, I would have just like not talked about being Jewish. But my mom is like super. She was a teacher, later on. But like she would come and like give a speech about like, hi, I'm David's mom, and we're Jewish, and here's what that means. Which, to be fair, good for her. Rock on, like being proud. That's amazing.
I love it.
But I was like, oh no, like, why are you telling everyone? Like now I'm gonna have to answer so many stupid questions. Like,
ain't it obvious why though?
Yeah,
she's proud as hell.
Yeah, also my mom likes to be the center of attention for anything.
Yeah, that's the human part.
Yes, well that's the thing. It's like I cannot fault her for being like, I want to show up and explain what my faith is. Okay, good for her.
The more I learn,
yeah,
the more I understand. And I did a Jewish genealogy conference.
Okay.
Back in I was doing AV, right? So
Sure.
This was 2014 maybe. We flew out to Florida, stayed at the Dolphin, right? Because it was around the Disney area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I learned. That's when I kind of got some of the first ideas about Ashkenazi Jews, Khazar Jews,
Sephardic Jews as well.
Sephardic
Yeah.
Jews, and this whatever sector of Ethiopian Jews, whatever we call it. Are they just
They'd
Ethiopian
be
Jews?
part of the Sephardic community.
Sephardic.
Yeah. Essentially, the breakdown is like Ashkenazi is European and Sephardic is essentially African. I don't know how like the Middle Eastern. Technically, like Israel is in Africa. But like I don't know how that actually breaks down. But yeah.
See, you're familiar with the story of Queen Sheba, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my biggest question is, at what point did it become? I guess by the simple fact that there's such an old group, they would have to be an ethnic group, right? Like the ethnic group, the first ethnic group.
Yeah, but
if you
by
will.
virtue, I mean, to not put too blunt of a point on it, it's basically by virtue of inbreeding. I mean, and not in a grotesque, like incestual way.
No, I know what you mean.
But as a cultural,
It's that ancient.
yeah, and as a also, it's that ancient, and it's from an area that was an era that was effectively tribal.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was very much a sense of like, and I mean honestly, there still is in many groups. Judaism is still one of them for sure. There is a sense of like you do not marry outside of the community. Like if you're Jewish, you're going to marry a Jewish person. You take that for a couple thousand years, and yeah, you've got a distinctive genetic ethnic group.
Mm-hmm. So we take that, and now we land ourselves in America.
Sure.
And it takes us, God knows how many years or how many centuries or generations for us to learn that Jewish is not synonymous with white.
It is not synonymous, but there is substantial overlap. So I would say, I mean, according to David Duke of KKK fame, I joked one time, oh, this is so good. I was on my way to set, and I heard on the radio someone was talking about David Duke, and he'd given this announcement, Jews are not white. Jews are a separate race. They are not white. And I was like, I had no idea. This is great news. So I get to set, and I go up to a buddy of mine. Do you remember Joe Kirkpatrick?
I do.
I go up to Joe, and I shouldn't have said his name, because I'll now preface this, like, what he's about to say, he's 100% kidding. No, leave it in, screw him. He was very much kidding, but I walked up to him, and I was like, Joe, I just learned the craziest thing. I thought I was white. It turns out I'm not. So it turns out I haven't had privilege this whole time. So tell me, Joe, how is white privilege? And Joe, without missing a beat, goes, it was great until everyone started getting mad at us for it. I'm like, nice answer. Like, oh, so good.
Real talk.
But so to that end, like I would say it would be very fucked up for me to pretend that I have not benefited from white privilege by virtue of the fact that I'm Jewish. Like, I am Jewish. I would also, I'll check the box that says white. Like, my ancestors are all European. I mean, if those are the boxes,
in the
I'll
American
check that.
context, that applies.
Yeah, and there are black Jews as well. Sephardic Jews are black. I remember one time this guy came to our synagogue.
I mean, not only are there black
there's
Jews,
a lot.
They're directly from the line of Solomon.
I mean, arguably all
According
of them
to
are.
the-
Arguably,
according
black
to
and
the-
white Jews all are, and they just some went north and some went, you know,
Right, but we have the specific story, right,
Sure.
in the story
Yeshiva.
of Queen Sheba
Yeah.
and Solomon, right? And I mean, the whole Middle Eastern part, if that's what we want to call it, is, I mean, if they have to be white or
Yeah.
black, in the American context, they're black.
Sure.
Because if you got X amount of drops, any drop or two, then you will find yourself
Right.
on a slave plantation.
I think to that end,
whether you're on in the field or in
Yeah.
the big house, will depend on how much you got in you.
I think I agree with what you're saying 100%. I think to that end, like I would if a black Jewish person were to say like, hey, I'm going to apply for this scholarship for young black Americans, I would never be like, whoa, you're not black, you're Jewish. And by the same token, if I was to say like, I've never benefited from white privilege because I can't, because I'm not white, I'm Jewish, I think that would be very disingenuous. So I do. I mean, I identify as white for the purposes of not in like a yay white pride sense, but like in the, you know, if those are the boxes that are being checked, I don't think Judaism precludes being white or black or any other race for that matter. I'm sure there are probably Jewish people in China and Japan, a tiny population, but I'm sure there are. And especially it is messy too, because you can convert to Judaism, like your genes aren't changing.
Because it's a religion,
Right.
also.
Yeah,
right?
it's a very tricky
Religion.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting.
And I go to that because what are your thoughts on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, if you have any?
I'm not well enough educated on it to voice.
Gotcha. I would encourage you to look.
Yeah, I will.
Man, go back and watch. I mean, how would you say he's viewed in the Jewish community in your circle?
I mean, to be in full disclosure, I don't know that I've ever heard a discussion amongst Jewish people about him. And I think there's also this huge problem with looking at like intersectionality and looking at various, minority groups and groups that are receiving different levels of different oppression, often from the same, overarching groups, of this like cross-group antagonism. I mean, you look at like, again, like members of the Black or the Hispanic community having really strong anti-gay or anti-trans, and again, not all of either of those communities. But
No,
there's
but
a decent...
it's a block.
Yeah,
that
and
exists
it's
for sure.
And
Right.
some of it is just straight. It's the Bible, and I get it. People have religious beliefs. Some of them are stretched and twisted to serve political purposes. But a lot of it is just minority groups being, buying into the garbage that everyone else is buying into about each other.
And I think that's you get to my point right
Sure.
there. Because what I was getting at is you have a big split among the Jewish community in America. You have like there's a sector. I mean, to give you a small history, go look at not a small history, but a suggestion. Go look at Minister Louis Farrakhan's old. He went on Donahue a bunch of times.
Sure.
That's gonna make your day.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out. Absolutely.
Go sit there for that hour and just watch and listen. He sits up on the stage and he talks to a crowd full of white people. I'm sure some of them are Jewish and a whole bunch of stuff. And they just ask him questions. Why are you so racist? Why do you hate Jewish people? Why do you and to sit there and listen to that man articulate himself and see what he's really about.
Yeah.
Because he also authored 3 volumes of a book called The Secret Relationship Between Jews and Blacks, right? And he's talking about, he's just making a difference between people in America who are Jewish, like that practice, go to the synagogue, that, up in New York with the, the typical stereotypical look of a Jewish person.
Earlocks, that's the term. Yeah.
Earlocks, thank you. And those people love Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah, I believe it.
He has a huge support of those people.
Yeah.
But then you have, and I'm thinking of a certain kid. He's kind of just like Charlie Kirk. I'm going to be better prepared next time we do this. But he's a Jewish young man, and he's a conservative, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a staunch Charlie Kirk type conservative. And there's a big block of that in America.
Yeah, a huge problem there is this absurd. I understand why it's happening. Again, it's the simple thing of it. It's like I don't want complicated range of thoughts. I want a simple thing, and because of that, people have trouble separating out Jewish from Israeli. And what the Conservative Party has done, and what Donald Trump in particular has done, is said, "I am the protector of the Jewish people. I'm the least anti-Semitic person you ever met. If you're not voting for me, you're not Jewish." He literally said this, just like Joe Biden said about black people, which was so stupid.
He did. Yep.
Like, dummy. But what Donald Trump is saying is we're going to protect Israel no matter what. I get that, like, Israel was the historic homeland of the Jews going way back, and then it was the place of safety following the Holocaust, which many Jewish people, older Jewish people even now, identified as home. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
If they both gonna go out. Historic homeland of not just the Jews, but also those Palestinians, right?
100% yes.
Because they're basically the same people.
100% yes.
Right.
And this is so I get that for many, especially older Jewish people, they consider Israel to be a sign that they are safe, and therefore any threat to it is a threat to them. And,
what they may not.
Yeah.
What I think maybe they don't give enough acknowledgement to, and
Sure.
here again is it's just like with black people when you're trying to rewrite history about certain things. The Israel today is not the Israel that existed in the Bible.
No, not at all.
It was reestablished, or if you will.
Yeah.
I'm going to say established because it's a whole different thing now.
Right.
But it was established in 1947 or something like that as they undergo war. And that war raged on for some time.
Yeah.
And the people who really, the Europeans, the British, who really controlled that land and who were negotiating terms for very prominent Jewish individuals,
Sure.
who were, I guess, the foundation of the Zionist movement, who wanted to go back and establish that homeland and have people repatriate to what they consider to be their biblical and ancient homeland, understandably, and I believe that.
Yeah.
they did so in a way that was a negotiation. And that negotiation started with, okay, let's have this. And a war raged on as a result of that.
Yeah.
And the British stepped back and said, okay, I guess that's what has to happen, right? That's how nations are made, right? They'll fight, and
Sure.
whoever comes out the winner will establish the rules. And history shows it that the Palestinian people were staving off Israeli attack, and the United States, the United States stepped in,
Yeah.
and has been a part of maintaining that state ever since.
Yes.
I just wanted to give our viewers
the
that
way it comes
context.
across to me is, imagine if, like, you see a kid getting picked on and attacked, and you go, I'm going to protect this kid. And you take that kid and you move them to another playground, right? And because you're protecting that kid. And now that kid is getting attacked. Now that kid's in a fight. You're going to go, well, I better go defend my kid. And not wonder, wait, let's look at who started this fight. Why is this fight happening? Like, it's not necessarily 100% the fault. Everyone wants their kid to be the one that's right and ignore everything else. It's not necessarily that simple. So I think what's happening now is, for better or worse, for for well-informed reasons or bad ones, a lot of people, some Jewish people, and also a lot of people who aren't Jewish and just don't understand that Jewish and Israel are not the same thing, are saying, well, the liberals want to let Palestine destroy Israel, and the conservatives want to destroy Palestine and protect Israel. And a lot of people are saying, well, and including some Jewish people, are saying, well, I relate to Israel. That's my homeland. It's hard to separate, because I get the star of the religion is the flag of the country. It would be like if there was a country that symbol was a cross. It would be like if Rome.
But then, would it be appropriate then to look at the people? Because what do we think about Benjamin Netanyahu?
I think he's a fucking nightmare.
He's Donald.
He's horrible.
He's the Donald Trump of the region.
He does,
right?
and it's this thing we were talking about convincing the people that elected you that they need you because they're perpetually under attack from outsiders. And for Israel, it's not a hard argument to make that people of Israel have historically been not wanted there by the bulk of the Middle East. But it is in Netanyahu's best interest that the Israeli people are terrified. That's what he wants, because then they'll keep him in power. Then they have to lean on him, and then he can do whatever the fuck he wants because they have to keep him. Same thing.
And then
with Donald
Hamas
Trump.
has that same kind of chokehold on the other side.
Exactly.
Right. So
yeah, it's
it's
a
a shitty situation.
I think it's the thing that frustrates me, people using like broad, big terms about like, do you support Israel or not? I'm like, whoa, hold on, because like Netanyahu, I do not support. The Israeli government, I think, is a fucking mess. The Israeli military, I think, is doing horrible things.
Which is just like what the issue. I'm sorry to cut you off,
Yeah,
but
of
it's
course.
like what we deal with here, right? Like
Right.
it's you either love America and everything about it, or you don't.
Well, and then the final thing is like, but the Israeli people are by and large not responsible for this, and shouldn't be, and many are vocally against what their leadership is doing. In the same way, I wouldn't be like, Americans believe it's okay to jail immigrants.
And you just said an
Yeah.
important part.
Yeah.
And this is a part that I don't know to be true or false, whether the majority of Israel is vocally against their leadership.
And I also don't know that it necessarily, whether or not it's a true majority, I don't know if it matters. By the same token, what I'm saying is, I as an American would be very pissed off if somebody said like, well, you think that it's okay to tariff the blah blah. I'm like, whoa. I'm an American. I live here. I'm a citizen here, but I do not support that. And they go, well, the majority of your country seems okay with it. And I'm like, yeah, so what? A ton of us aren't. And what I would say is I refuse to demonize the people who are against it, in the same way that I wouldn't blame any of the Palestinian kids, especially. I wouldn't blame them for the actions of Hamas. That's insane.
Here's what I think we know, though. In America, I think we know for sure the majority of people do not fuck with Donald Trump.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though he got voted in.
Well, yeah.
I think we know for sure the majority of people don't fuck with Donald Trump,
Yeah.
because you just barely won, and we definitely don't have a maximum votership among
embarrassingly
the Progressive Party. You know what I'm saying? I know my block we've gotten better, but hey, it is what it is. But I know for sure the grand majority of the country, just the sentiment, because we show that in popular vote, we show that in movement, you know what I mean, and things like that doesn't agree. But you have a strong enough block of the old mindset that still exists. And I think, like you said, that we've gotten to a period of desperation.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. We're in that ebb. Like I said, if it's in the ebb and flow, we're in the ebb era for sure right now, because shit is going crazy, man. And I think it's time we start. A lot of truth is coming to the forefront, and I think history, as we've discussed a lot in this podcast, man, we went over, even though we bounced around, we went over a lot of key points that I think gets misconstrued in the conversations that are being had, because I still see people go out there and they talk about the Democrat Party. The Democrat were the people that held the slaves, and like I said, that on its face, that is intellectually dishonest.
Well, not only that,
I think that's where the conversation ends up stopping. Now I have to act like I need to educate somebody about the difference between a Democrat in the 19th century America and a progressive of today.
Not to be brief, not to be closed-minded, but
talk to me. Tell me I'm wrong.
No. I think studying history is obviously important. Mm-hmm. Of course it is, just to understand how things happen and why.
I think that's the most important.
So I disagree.
It informs.
Okay, I
what
disagree.
What you do today will inform what you do tomorrow.
Yeah, yes,
it doesn't have to control it.
Certainly can, and what I do will inform what I do. What I find frustrating is people getting into these arguments about, like, okay, if the situation is present day Israel-Palestine, there's kids and women that are starving, and there's an Israeli army that's blockading them, but Hamas attacked, et cetera. It's complicated. The moment the conversation becomes, well, in 1945, no offense to historians, who gives a shit? Like, I get that it's important. Sorry, give me a second. I get that it's important, but the fact that my great-grandfather was right and your great-grandfather was wrong, and technically my old country promised your old country this, like, okay, that's worth talking about. It is not as important and never will be as important as people currently suffering or in danger now. And it drives, and it's the same thing of people going, well, technically, Republicans were the party.
Let me tell you why I disagree.
Sure.
It's the same reason that black people in America were able to get jailed at the rate they were. Mm-hmm. That could never. A lot of what happened in the 50s and 60s could never happen today, largely because of technology and the ability for information to travel very quickly.
Yes.
So if we don't know, if you're a young white person, because people die and new people are born, you have to teach this individual that black people were slaves in this country. Why is that important? Well, it might explain why they own the least amount in this country. It may explain why they were unable to get home loans prior to 1960. It may explain why they weren't even able to educate themselves legally before the end of Civil War.
Absolutely.
And all of this stuff on a relative scale of time might as well have been yesterday.
Sure.
Last month, black people were freed. How long does it take while you're freed, while you're under attack from the KKK, while you cannot participate in the very most common things in this country as a civilian, which is to vote, be able to go and work and earn?
Yeah.
How do you do that in an atmosphere where there's legal blockades against it? It's not sentiment.
No.
So when somebody asks, when Charlie Kirk says, why haven't you people been able to get yourselves together in 150 years? The simple question is,
there's a lot of easy answers to that, sir.
The really simple question is, then you tell me, what decade do you think would have been the one where we should have got it together?
Yes.
In an atmosphere where you can't vote. And if you can't vote, see, that's just a standing representative of all the different things you can't do in society.
Sure.
That's not the only thing.
No, own a business. Establish any kind of investment. Yeah, clearly. I agree 100%.
You're living a worse existence than when you were a slave.
Okay, so I guess here's how I would modify what I just said in response to that. I think it's absolutely worth looking at history for the purposes of figuring out how do we get here, how do we explain these things. I completely agree. For the research purposes of if you were to just go, wait, like black people on average make less money.
Because
white
we
people on
bog a lot of time up in the Senate and different things about
1,000%.
We still argue with
For-
white people about affirmative action as
Yes.
if black people have been the only and majority of people to benefit from affirmative action over the
which
last
is
50
so
years.
absurd. Well, that's my point. Is like I think so much of the time, the conversation gets or the debate gets diverted to arguing about a thing that happened in the distant past. It's the argument.
But it's
of,
not distant enough.
Well, no.
What
What I'm saying
one
is-
second though, David.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are people still today
Yes.
who are of the ilk of Bull Connor. Bull, you know who Bull Connor?
No,
is?
I'm not familiar.
The big sheriff of one of the Alabama cities who was, niggers this and segregation that and all of that in the
Yeah.
60s. And then of course, George Wallace,
Yeah, terrible.
the governor of Alabama, who said segregation now, segregation is segregation forever. There are still, we're not removed from the very most staunch racist position that will have black people in this country whipped,
Yeah.
enslaved, your children's children. I mean, I'm gonna give you a book when you leave here by Mark Twain, one that a lot of
Which
people
one?
are not even familiar with. It's called "On the Damned Human Race."
Oh,
and
interesting,
you heard of it?
No, I wasn't familiar. I've read Life on the Mississippi, and I've read his autobiography.
So it's not a. He's my favorite author.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's interesting.
I mean, he lived from 1835 to 1910.
Was it that late? It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's slave times.
Right.
Close associate with Frederick Douglass, right? He sees Civil War. He sees Reconstruction. He sees the rise and the re-rise of the Ku Klux Klan.
Absolutely.
Watch him talk about it.
Sure.
See, that's for somebody that reads as much as you do.
Yeah.
That book should have been every individual in
Yeah,
this
I'm
country
interested to check it out.
because Mark Twain was the most prominent and famous author of the 19th century.
Right.
So one would wonder, where did he go?
I mean,
He
he's
started
still,
talking, didn't
well,
he?
He's still everywhere.
Is he?
He's
Because I had to
probably-
get
he's
that book
probably
from China.
He's one of the most pre-printed American authors of all time.
Well, the one book
A couple of the books
that everybody loved,
of course,
Huckleberry
Huck
Finn,
Finn
and The Adventures of
Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer,
both
which are basically the same.
But so is Connecticut
It's the same
Yankee
story.
in King Arthur's Court. I mean, like his autobiography was a massive thing because it came out 100 years after he died, which is amazing and crazy at his request. So yeah, you're right, 1910 because it came out 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But so sorry to what I'm saying. I agree with you 1,000%. And what I am not saying that we are past a point in history
But
where
what,
these things
real
matter.
quickly though,
Yeah, of course.
what that book is about,
Sure.
or what it is, it's a collection of different, like articles that he wrote for a local publishing
Sure.
or something like that. And when you see the titles,
Mm-hmm.
"On the Damned Human Race," "On the White Race," "On the Jews," there's a chapter.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just gonna give it to you and
Yeah,
leave
I'll
you
give
with
it
it,
a
and we'll talk about
Sure,
it
man,
the next
absolutely.
time. But
Sorry, so to go back to
Go ahead.
this concept of like, I
History.
am not pretending for a second that history has not had a massive influence on where we are today, and that history isn't still very much an influence on where we're at.
because and when we think history,
Mm-hmm.
I think people tend to think ancient history,
Sure.
and 1835, 1865,
Mm-hmm.
the 1920s, where you have massive race rioting all over this country. None of that is ancient.
No.
That's your grandma
Agreed.
ago.
But
Go ahead.
where I get frustrated is when people take, and again, like the perfect example is this thing that Republicans love to do, where they say, "Well, Republican was the party of emancipating," and I'm like, no offense.
That's a lie.
And it's also, who cares? Like the whether or not Lincoln called himself Republican. What? Okay, but hold on. Let me finish this. Like, which party called itself this at that point does not matter relative to what these parties are standing for now.
Let me tell you why it matters,
Yes.
David. Do you think these very intelligent, well-read Harvard graduates don't know that ain't true? Do you really think that those people come from the lineage? If you go back from conservatives right now,
Right.
from Jeff Sessions, who was
Yes.
a conservative, he was. If you go his grandpa back, he was a Democrat.
I get this. Abraham Lincoln's official party was Republican, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the argument that the Republicans made. And again, it's a simple argument because what they're doing.
But Abe is not their guy.
I get it, but what Republicans
Nixon
are doing,
is their guy.
What Republicans are doing is they're trying to persuade people who don't want to think hard, and what they are saying is.
And so that's why
Yes.
history is important.
Okay, it is important. It is less important than just the fact. For me to claim, let's pretend I'm Republican, you're a Democrat, and I go, I'm less racist than you are because Lincoln was on my side and your side didn't want to abolish slavery. Well, okay. Who cares what? And again, I agree that it matters. I think it matters.
In a propagandist run of
Yes.
who's trying to win,
Right. So that's what I find is
you better care,
right? People
because
use-
messaging
That's my
is the
point.
war now.
It's exactly my point.
They would just kill you in the past.
It's people using history to justify current behavior that isn't okay.
So you have to fight that war.
Well,
How do you
think-
fight that
I think
war?
you have to think in
You
the
got to
present.
combat that.
Yes.
You have to. You may need to get like Charlie Kirk. Where's the? Well, I'm not even gonna lie. There are some libtard Charlie Kirks out there. Tim Wise. What's that white lady name who did the blue eye experiment who passed away? Jane Elliott. You know, I mean, there's some white people out there.
Sure.
There's always traditionally been white people out there, going back to Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
William Lloyd
Garrison? Yeah, absolutely.
How many people know about him? That if you go and you ask the average, when you talk about white heroes,
Sure.
where are his statues? And he may have one, I mean, you know, somewhere. But I bet not many as Forrest, Nathan Bedford.
Well, and there's also a hell of a lot of, just what was it? William Thoreau. It was, very prominent abolitionist. There were
All of these
plenty.
people were
Now,
in the radical Republican Party.
Yes,
They were
absolutely.
abolitionists.
Right.
These are the people who.
But again-
if you were in Congress, you were doing one
Yes.
thing, and if you were in newspaper publishings, you were doing a different thing.
But the fact
those
that
people were
the
Republicans.
fact that people 150 years ago
People don't know that. You'd be
No, I
surprised.
know.
They don't.
Well,
They genuinely
no, the Republican
don't know
Party
that.
likes
And then
to
you have
talk
the
about
smart
that.
people who know that
Yes.
and have used that. The Klan, brother.
Yes,
Have-
that's my
they,
point.
They use
Right.
this information. Notice when I cite the Klan, I cite specifically the Klan because that's the other piece of propaganda. They don't exist no more.
Right.
You know
Oh,
that,
of
right? The
course
Klan
they do.
died
Yeah,
a long.
man,
I don't know
bullshit.
when,
Right.
but they a long
Yeah.
time ago. They died. They're not there no more. They're gone.
Of course, right. This is my point. Is like for you look at Israel-Palestine, when and it's usually not Israelis and Palestinians having this argument. It's people here saying, well, yeah, but you have to look at who was there first. And I'm like, that's an interesting conversation, and it's a conversation worth having, and that history is important.
Yeah.
But it is much less important than who is killing who right now, because that needs to be stopped. Like to me, the Rwanda genocide is a perfect example of like, if you ask someone to go like, who's the good guy and the bad guy of the Rwandan genocide? There's a really easy knee-jerk answer. You Hutus, Tutsis, they were slaughtering them. Like there, it's done. It's simple. It's like, okay, now rewind back 5 years and look at what the dynamics were between those two groups. It was inverted. That's why the genocide happened. Does that mean the genocide was justified? Of course not. But at the end of the day, like, there is absolutely no excuse for genocide, ever, regardless of the history. I agree with you 1,000%, and I may have overstated. Like, I think history is important. I hate when people deflect away from a conversation about like present day, not just morality, and instead it becomes about, oh yeah, well, whose grandfather fought harder and whatever. And it's like, that's an interesting conversation, but it's not as important as the present day, just like objective morality.
And for me,
Yeah.
when it comes to the question of the Israeli-Palestine conflict, morality to me, unfortunately, doesn't reign. It's the only thing that could solve that problem.
I completely agree.
But it's never gonna happen.
Yes.
They're not gonna do the moral thing. If the moral thing was being done, then we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Because
Completely
there would have been an equitable way of, and I get the feeling, we'll never know, but I get the feeling the British would have been better arbiters of that negotiation.
Maybe. I mean, it was.
It's kind of clear. Now that America's involvement in that situation soils the possibility of anything being done on a moral ground. America's going to do what America needs to do to dominate.
Here's what I.
They're not,
So I'm a huge fan.
They're not going to try to set things right.
Well,
in the region.
America, and again, America not as a body, but Donald Trump specifically right now. It's about posturing. It's about looking how strong I am that I can protect Israel, and it's about saying, hey, if you don't support me, then you must be anti-Semitic because you want to destroy Israel.
I think he's an asshole about it. Yeah, he
I
postures.
mean,
but we've been doing this. We
absolutely.
support Israel the same way we supported Israel for the last.
Here's
70
so
years.
I'm a huge fan of like analogies and metaphors and shit. Here's what I feel like. I feel like it's I'm Europe, and you're the Jewish people. You're a child that represents the Jewish people.
Okay.
I ran my car into you. I broke your leg. Like it's a thing. So I go and I get you some like super nice fucking. I go buy you a new car, or I get you a new car to apologize for the damage I did. So I've given you this new car to apologize for all the suffering you went through. What you don't know is that I stole that car from this guy. Now, this guy and you both believe you deserve this car. You suffered some horrible shit, and I gave you this car as an apology, and it's yours, and you deserve it. It's their fucking car.
Yeah, it wasn't your car.
And they deserve it. But from your perspective, are you going to give up the car that was given to you after you suffered, and like it was your settlement for this disaster? So I get like both these two sides have a valid reason, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter.
You ask a good question.
Yeah.
The moral thing would be probably yes to give the person their car back.
Like yes.
As
but,
crazy as that
okay.
sounds. Hold up, stay with me.
Yeah, of course.
Stay with me. But guess what? In America, you wouldn't have to decide on morality. You would do what the law says that you can do.
Yes, and again, in an ideal world, which we do not live in an ideal world, the law is reflecting our best attempt to maintain morality. That would be the
Not
goal.
necessarily.
Well, no.
Especially not Americans.
I'm saying ideally. I'm saying the ideal purpose of the law
Yeah.
should be to protect morality. That should be the ideal purpose, like to determine what is fair. Because what is fair is literally what is moral. It's like you've lost a thing, you get it back, but we don't want to. That's that. To me, all of morality just comes down to the golden rule. It's like just don't hurt people.
So what do we do
Yeah.
for Palestine to make them whole today?
Oh, I have no idea.
Nothing.
Like
That's the problem.
No. The answer is not nothing.
I think that's kind of the problem.
Okay, I think this is a problem.
Half steps.
Oh, no. I think a lot of people, and again, this is what's attractive about conservative ideology. People think, oh, the answer is fucking complicated, means we shouldn't worry about the problem.
Yeah.
And like, this is the issue with global warming. It's the issue with reparations and affirmative action. It's the issue with the people of Palestine. It's the issue with abortion. They go, oh shit, this is super tricky. We got to figure it out. And like, how do we make everyone whole without unfairly taking away? Like, how do we do that? And the easy, intellectually lazy thing to do is to go, yeah, no, we're just not going to worry about it. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is too tricky. And I think, honestly, it's a lot of the turnoff for a lot of white people about talking about anything to do with reparations is they go, well, how would it work? Does Oprah get money? She's already rich. And it's like, it's before you whine about how complicated it is, can you acknowledge that it's a problem that should be addressed?
But let me ask you, what do you say to this, though? Because, okay, somebody came and gave them the thing, right, which didn't necessarily belong to them, but I genuinely feel, yes, there's a stake, right? That said, what I think we maybe get to, though, and what a lot of people would say to that is that like it wasn't just these people.
Right.
Like these people were unfortunately subjected to something in a place that they migrated to, right, long ago. Because we can say that Jewish people don't come from, that's not their inception, right?
What do you mean?
Europe.
Oh, no, of course not. Yeah, absolutely not.
So we agree to that. So they go to, and when I say they, that's not the right thing to say because not all Jews went to Europe.
No, of course not.
Right?
They essentially split.
So a group of Jewish folks go to Europe, and however long later, a millennia, whatever the case may be, they find themselves beginning to be spread out around the world, receiving all kinds of hate eventually once their ways came to be known and all of these things, and especially if they started to gain relevance within communities, which they often did, as history shows us. And then so that group gains power, right? And I think that's where kind of the narrative often comes from people who we would consider trying to be anti-Semitic. I don't consider myself that, obviously, regardless of what I say. But I mean, I think that's kind of where the narrative comes from, right? That Jewish people run the world, because you've had a select group of Jewish people who've gone from, whether it would be in the power in Spain or in Italy, and then of course here in America. Jewish people are a small block, just like African Americans, but
it's
have
crazy.
power in
Well,
Congress.
it's interesting because it's not a uniform block. I think is one big issue. It is not. There's not the Jews don't all gather to meet to discuss these plans.
Right.
It's not always the same people. It's so interesting. I wish I could find this article.
But you know what though? I have to disagree with that. They're uniform in some way, because like you said, I mean, listen, most, and you may be different, but show me a Jewish person who goes to see a non-Jewish doctor.
I mean, let's put it this way: probably almost every Jewish person in Baton Rouge, like,
goes to see a non-Jewish doctor.
I mean,
so would you say y'all are kind of a minority though, right?
No.
Come on, bro.
No, I mean, what are you basing this off of though? Like
every Jewish person I ever met.
Which is how many Jewish people?
A lot, bro.
Okay, well, I mean, like
I'll name you one, Austin.
Okay, well, no, but a lot is, you know, like that's, you've met what, maybe 1,000 Jewish people personally, maybe, and that I don't think I've met 1,000 Jewish people personally. Right. So like, so that's a tiny percentage. Like, and also I don't know how you know about who all the doctors are, but like
This is all right. I'm glad I brought that up then. You know, ask around. Because I think this is not only something that I assumed.
Sure.
I think Jewish people put this out there pretty loud and proud.
What do you mean?
You said when you came in here, like I think one of the first things you said early in, I forget exactly what it was.
Oh, then my mom would come to class and be like, "Hey, we're Jewish." Like, yeah, but that's, I mean, saying we're Jewish, that's like
the proudness of the Jewish community.
I mean,
and that's part of how they've built community and power over generations of time. That they spend money amongst each other. They were kind of forced to.
Well, being forced into banking was
not just bank, every sector of society.
Well, no, in Europe, the issue was, for a long time, was handling of money was considered dirty, and it was one of relatively few professions that Jewish people were allowed to do, was be the money lenders. Money lending was considered dirty and sinful, and Christians didn't want to touch it. And so it was a Jewish, you know, it was literally a thing relative. Same with acting, was the theater was considered dirty and low.
So that could be the inception of this perceived power that Jewish people built in Europe over the years. But ask around. Look, I just made an assertion, and I want you to ask around, do some research, and come back in a day and tell me that you still think I'm wrong on that, because maybe you never thought about that at all.
Okay, I'm not honestly, by this,
I think.
But I do want to point out that, like, what you're telling me is that, like, who's as someone who, like, grew up with a Jewish family and Jewish people,
who admittedly doesn't really dive into what it is to be Jewish.
Whoa.
Right?
I said I don't.
You're a bit of an anomaly in that way.
Well, that's not true at all. I think that's a huge problem for Jews, as for many Christians, is increasingly people are drifting away from believing the religious aspects of their religions. That said, I grew up in, amongst the only Jewish community that existed in Baton Rouge. I was very aware of them, and then my grandparents lived in Florida, which is more South Florida, which is more predominant.
What would you contribute that to Jewish people in Baton Rouge hiding their identities for some generations?
What do you mean hiding their identity?
The Klan doesn't like Jewish people, bro.
Yeah.
So if you're a Jewish person living in 1910 Baton Rouge,
sure,
are you going to be loud and proud about being a Jewish man? Have you ever watched Henry Louis Gates's Finding Your Roots?
Yeah, I have. I've seen bits of it, not a ton of it. But sorry, here's what I'm.
Stay with me. A great majority of the individuals who've come on that show, have found out on that show that they're Jewish.
Sure.
It's commonly known that that's because when Jewish people came to America, they were under a great deal of anti-Semitic attacks.
Of course.
And so they did not want people to know that they were Jewish.
Sure. Yes.
So do you think maybe Baton Rouge might be one of those places where you don't want to go out yelling that you're Jewish?
Yeah, possibly. But sorry, to what does that then support, though?
So maybe Baton Rouge might not be one of the places like New York where there's a large Jewish population that supports each other
Yeah.
and who protects each other, and who built a culture of building community by spending money within their communities and keeping their dollar within their community. This is something that's promoted by a great deal of people. That's a stalwart of Minister Louis Farrakhan's movement, trying to get black people to stop taking the dollar that they get and go and give it to a different group.
Well, and frankly, I would say of a group spending money within their group, the same exact logic applies to an extent.
So this is
to an extent.
I appreciate
to crime within a group is the same. It's the same thing we were talking about earlier of like the majority of black murders are against black people. The majority of white murders are against white people. Why? Because it's not racial. It's not black people want to murder black people. It's people tend to murder people in their social group. That's where murder usually happens.
But
So by
that's
the
not
same
the
token,
case among black people in America.
with spending within their group.
That's right.
Yeah, because the system fucked black people out of the opportunity to have businesses for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like if you're a black person in America, especially obviously slavery, you're not paying other slaves, and then post-slavery, Reconstruction, no, black people weren't allowed to have a business. If you were a black person, you wanted to buy something, you had to go to a white person. Had that not been the case, probably, if black communities were actually allowed to properly thrive and not being constantly thwarted by a racist system, there would probably be a lot more spending within the black community because not even for racial reasons, just it would be convenient. The people who live near you, who you know, are the people selling the thing. You want it, you buy it, you sell them stuff. So I guess the point is, I don't know this concept or this assertion that Jewish people only see Jewish or tend to see Jewish doctors. I don't know that says anything specific.
I didn't say it's just doctors.
Okay.
They will have a Jewish lawyer.
What? Again, I'm curious what you're basing this on.
Life. Talk to your people outside of Baton Rouge, I guess. Talk to Jewish people outside Baton Rouge. Outside the South.
But
outside the
what
South.
You're telling me, and again, my grandparents were New Yorkers. They lived in New York up until I was 11. We'd go up there. We'd go up there and spend time with them every summer.
And for sure, it was not a thing that they made sure to go and see a Jewish dentist.
So I'm curious what the angle is, in inverting this of
Honestly, I forgot why.
Well, no,
and
I'm
initially went into.
And again, I'm not offended by it,
I've gone into explaining the history of the thought.
Well, right. But imagine, and again, I'm not offended by this, and I'm not attacking you based on this.
No, go.
So imagine if I was here's what you don't understand about black people.
Give me one.
Let me tell you what you don't realize about the black community, and if you don't agree with me, you need to talk to more black people because you don't get it.
That's what you feel like I said?
No, well, that literally is what you said.
No, I said that this is the narrative.
Well, no, but you didn't say it. You said
but
you presented it as true. You said if I'm not aware that Jewish people only go to Jewish lawyers and doctors and dentists, it's because I need to talk to more Jewish people and then report back. And I'm like, no offense to you, I probably have a lot more experience with Jewish people in my life than you do, and that's not an insult to you. It's just by virtue of the fact I grew up surrounded
again, you initially started this when I asked you if you were Jewish.
Yeah.
You didn't go, yes.
What did I say?
It was qualified in a lot of ways.
I said I was born and raised Jewish. I had a bar mitzvah. I grew up amongst Jewish people. However, now, religiously speaking, I wouldn't consider myself Jewish. But and then I said this thing about the genetics of it. But I don't know that the religion part of the do you celebrate Purim? I don't know that matters relative to the community sense of who's going to see who for dentistry.
Right.
So I think that's more of a community aspect. And again, I'm not. What's interesting to me is, and again, I'm not saying that you're wrong. Probably.
Well, I think I think you're ignoring history again. I think I don't know why, because you're taking it. And you're right. I agree with you, and I'll even apologize for asserting that you should check with the Jews. But I don't necessarily pull back the narrative that I think we found already to be factual in a lot of ways, that Jewish people in America built the strong bloc, and I think that's what we were originally talking about, how they became strong here, particularly in America, is by coming to this place and being a group that is castigated, just like black people, except just like you spoke about earlier in this podcast, that the ignorant person, as you said, could not look at a Jewish person necessarily and tell that they're Jewish.
You know, it's interesting.
This is
that.
an important section of American history. This is why history is important, because and proves, I guess you could say, what I'm trying to say to you, which surprised me that as a Jewish person, you kind of take exception to it, I guess.
Okay, how do you feel that Jewish people established the degree of financial ability in the U.S. that they did? There's an answer. There's a definitive answer to this that's pretty objective.
Banking.
Okay,
Yeah.
But even before banking. So there's a
Well,
massive
the sugar plantation in Brazil first.
The Jews were not a substantial presence in the
On
U.S.
plantations.
until.
But wait, you do know that Jews established the initial plantations in America, right? The Dutch organization.
I was not aware of this. I'll definitely look into it. I also think.
See, this
wait,
is.
wait, hold on. Okay, yeah,
go
go
ahead.
No, go ahead.
The Christopher Columbus was an Italian Jew.
Okay.
You know that, right?
No, but carry on. What are you saying? No, but you're saying
The 1492, this time aligns with Spanish Inquisition.
Okay.
We know what's happening in Southern Europe during this time, right? When Alexander Rodrigo Borgia, Alexander Septus, becomes the Pope of Rome. And that power, along with the queens in Portugal or whoever, they're starting to make their plans to get over here. Christopher Columbus comes. He's an Italian Jew.
Okay.
It's initially Jews who create sugar plantations in Brazil. For hosts of reasons, history says, Jews did not like doing this.
Okay.
I don't know that to be true or whatever. Maybe they figured once the English, some places say once the English and that power began to come in, there was just more of a tolerance and history that shows that they bought them in faster.
Okay.
Right? And
Sure.
we're able to take over that industry, if you will, here in the North Americas. But the Dutch organization.
The Dutch East India Company?
There you go.
Yeah.
I know you would know. The Dutch East India Company is one of the first importers of slaves, both to the Indies and other places in the Caribbean. These were Jewish slave owners.
Okay.
And these people were pushed out of that industry. Okay? And then as it was taken over through the 1600s and established 1700s, whatever, you then start to have a huge influx of known Jewish powers coming into America, as spoken in the book by Theodore Herzl.
So, okay, to
And
clarify.
in the pamphlet.
To clarify, so you're saying the Jews were a major financial force in South America in the 1500s.
14 and 1500s.
Okay.
And
What?
most of this information, I'm going to get you
Yeah.
some of the sites. This comes from Jewish rabbis.
Okay, now what happened to that Jewish presence?
That Jewish presence basically went dormant for a while.
Dormant. What does that mean?
Hiding within
Where? South America? Like that?
America.
Okay, so there's a massive amount. There's a huge amount of financially wealthy Jewish people.
I didn't say huge.
Okay, sorry. There's a block.
I never
of,
said
there,
huge.
so, okay, fair. There's a block of financially wealthy Jewish people in America prior to
The arrival of John Hawkins and the
okay.
slave ship Jesus and those that came after.
and these Jewish people are dormant. They're laying low.
Well, no, not at that time.
Okay.
They controlled the slave trade.
Okay. From where? I mean, so here's.
The Dutch East Indian Company, is that not owned by Jewish people?
I don't believe so. I mean, I will happily dive
Look
into
into
this. So these Jewish people, again, doing financially well, they're profiting off of the slave trade, are in South America. At some point, I guess they leave there because there's virtually no.
Well, they
Jewish,
ran out.
Okay, they were run out.
In a lot of the books, it just says that they didn't have a propensity. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Sure.
I guess people. I've never been to Europe.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much of London or Denmark or any of these other places is a farm.
Uh-huh.
And so, but there's also a huge history, and there's power sending them here very quickly. And so
sending who? Sending Jewish people or sending
sending
enslaved black
non-Jewish people,
Okay.
sending Protestants.
Oh, got it. Okay. Of
Okay,
course.
Christians.
Yeah.
Are coming. So there's just more Christians than Jews.
Interesting. Okay.
There you go.
Sure.
And so what's happening in the Spanish Inquisition, right? You have who's being exiled from Southern Europe?
I mean, everyone except Protestants or Catholics, depending on the
Moors and Jews.
Sure.
And as those Jewish people are being exiled, not all of them are being exiled. If you have power and influence, you stay.
Okay.
Machiavelli writes about a lot of this in the Prince
I'm
also.
very curious.
Niccolo Machiavelli.
Yes. Yeah. You clearly have like a fairly extensive knowledge of Jewish people in America today.
Yeah.
Have you ever met a Jewish person in America who is more than fourth generation American? I don't think I have. In fact, I'm almost certain I haven't. I don't think I've ever met a Jewish person in this country whose great grandparents.
And I think now we might be covering why, because they have roots here much further than that, and that was sorted out by Henry Louis Gates in episodes with movie stars. Go check it out.
Okay, yeah.
Go look at it.
will.
A lot of these people were never told they were Jewish because they would be castigated in this country.
Okay.
Because anti-Semitism in this country didn't start with the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, I understand, but
They furthered that.
I guess if a Jewish person is in this country and keeps their Judaism secret, has children who are never told they're Jewish, those children grow up believing they're Christian, presumably. I would presume Christian.
That's right.
They grow up believing they're Christian.
That's my understanding.
They have children that they consider Christian.
That's right.
I would not know that I would consider the Jewish people at the base of that tree to in any way be the roots of the Jewish community in America, since they literally did not.
No, I never claimed that the Dutch company and the founders. I just said that to say that Jewish people have been here long before the 4 generations you're talking about.
Well, no, and the way we got here was I asked about how the Jewish people had established a kind of financial foothold.
Right, and you
America.
just said that
And it
can't
clearly-
go back 4 generations.
Well,
and
so
I'm
it
telling you,
clearly is
in
not.
that 4 generations, how they've established a block of power in America. First of all, do we agree that for the Jewish population in America that they have a good block of power?
I would say that Jewish people disproportionately have money relative to their population.
Not just financial power, political power.
I think they're
Chuck Schumer is at the top of the totem
I
pole.
think they're almost synonymous. I think
okay.
financial power.
I
buys
can
you
agree with
political
that.
power. Yeah,
We can agree there.
Yeah.
So, how?
Okay, that's what I asked, and you said.
And I told you. So you tell me now.
Okay, so
how?
So you said sugar plantations.
No.
That is what you said.
No. I said by going to their dentist.
Okay.
I said by stay with me.
Yeah.
So do I have to let the world know that I'm Jewish to go to my Jewish dentist? Because he ain't letting the world know he's Jewish either.
Because we're no longer talking about we're now talking about primarily New York Jewish people. I mean,
That's where they probably existed.
Well, and also
mostly for
they were primarily not
of
hiding that they were Jewish. I mean, this is the Hasidic Jews who are wearing the earlocks, who are wearing the talit. Like
those people are still Hasidic to this day. Those people don't have the financial motivations of other people who consider themselves to be Jewish. That's still the case to this day.
No. What I'm saying is there are still Hasidic Jews, like every extreme religious sect.
And those people are not interested in banking. They're not interested in owning a J.P. Morgan Chase.
I think that's a broad statement because, again, like with any group that is relatively devout.
That is a little ignorant.
No,
I'm sorry.
Like there are people that grow up and follow in their parents'
Because
footsteps.
they will go and bank and have the locks and everything.
It would be like imagine saying Catholics. Like when we talk Catholics. Yeah, there's the Catholic clergy and the priests, and they're not going to go out and start businesses and blah 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 and create, teach at Notre Dame or whatever the fuck. But like then there are plenty of Catholic kids who grow up in that system, but then branch out elsewhere.
Facts.
So like if we're talking like relatively early like Jewish diaspora in America, the people that were like we are a tight knit community and we primarily interact with other Jews, that they were for the most part not hiding their Judaism. Like they were, I mean, again, they were a major financial block. And the question then is, Yeah, you said like they developed this financial block by spending.
Jewish
the community.
people became a major financial block in America in the 20th century.
Yes. How?
That's not long ago.
No, I completely. That's what I was saying.
And that wasn't
yeah.
just in the financial sector. That was in music.
Yes. This is why. That's why I was curious when I asked, like, how did Jews become a financial block? You said, well,
So you're talking about popular, known Jewish people.
No, I'm saying
You're talking about a whole different level of like that's like talking about the Rothschilds during Spanish Inquisition. They are not going anywhere.
No.
They can say loud and proudly that they're Jewish.
You asked me if I would acknowledge that the Jewish people have a relatively powerful bloc in America.
Right. We only disagree on how.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I'm asking is how did that happen?
I'm telling you, and what I said to that, we're saying kind of two different things. You're talking about a different, because now we're going deeper. You're talking about, I think, a different class of Jewish people in this country.
You said
who haven't had to hide, who did not have to hide anything. These people had power. The Jewish people helped establish the NAACP.
Yes.
Right. So this is people who have power. This is not somebody who's trying to hide their Jewism, coming out and saying, let me help the black people.
How did they get this power? That's what I'm saying is
many of them came here with it in the late 1800s. You got a huge Zionist population now. Mm-hmm. This is when the Zionist movement started to take its heels. So this is late in the game, and so there's black people during that time with money and power.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah, let's make sure we talk about the levels. Uh-huh. There's black people in America who are slaves.
Yes.
In 1855, let's say. There are free black people.
Yes.
With money and power in some places in Charleston, South Carolina, in New Orleans, Louisiana. Mm-hmm. So, we don't have to act like Jewish people are all this one thing.
No,
they were either powerful in this country at one time or they were not.
Well, and
they have existed here as long as anybody.
This is why when you said to me, like when you asked me, would you agree that Jewish people are a powerful bloc? That is making them one group. To ask that question that way, to say Jewish people are a powerful bloc, that's not saying there are some Jews.
Because they are a powerful bloc now.
Okay, but now,
by and large.
Okay.
Now.
Oh, and you
now.
And you're saying that is
find me. I mean, look, I haven't gone around asking people laying on the sidewalk if they're Jewish or not.
Yeah.
But boy, I bet you'd have a hard time finding that. I'm postulating.
I'm telling you, you wouldn't. I mean, spend some time at go to a synagogue here. And start asking people what their income is. Yeah, you're going to find a disproportionate number of people that are doing okay. You're going to find, there were kids in my synagogue that literally were single parent homes, living check to check. I think what you're describing is a stereotype.
A little bit.
And
I think that's the kind of the base of the truth that gets blown into something different. You're damn near taking a beautiful thing. What I'm saying is it'd be nice if black people would be in that goddamn. That's where we're trying to get. Where's the black community? Black community centers are not funded by no damn body. You got dope dealers and shit have to fund that. But Jewish people in this country have created. There's a point where they came out of the shadows. We know that now. We know that now. If you talk again, look at Henry Louis Gates. Read about on the Jews when I give you this book. From the man who was living during the time.
Sure.
He's telling us the state of affairs. So this is why history is important, because we only have a piece of the picture, apparently, because not only from the historical documents given to us by a lot of Jewish rabbi, because when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan writes a book, or those books anyway, because you got to have some nerves to go out and publish books that says the secret relationship between blacks and Jews.
Sure.
So the man went and spoke to the rabbis. I hope that's a credible enough individual to speak to about Jewish history. Several rabbis, not just a rabbi.
It's
lots of rabbi. There's a great deal of Jewish history here in New Orleans.
Yes.
As it pertains to slavery and Jewish people's involvement in it. Are you aware of that?
No.
So if you go and look at who owns the companies that on the slave trading blocks here in New Orleans, these are Jewish people.
Okay.
Most of the plantations here in New Orleans, I use that term loosely because a plantation in New Orleans is not the same as a plantation in St. Francisville.
Sure.
Right? These are Jewish-owned plantations.
Okay.
In Old Metairie.
Okay.
And see, and one of the most popular, his name is Wise or something like that. This is a man, there's plenty of statement from him during the Reconstruction era, trying to maintain the slave system and such. So it's not anti-Semitic or any of that to speak history about the Jewish path to where we consider Jewish people in general to be in this country. People who say that they are Jewish.
Yes. Sorry. The Jewish path, though, this is where I get lost. We talk about the Jewish involvement with sugar plantations in Brazil, and then you talk about Jewish ownership of plantations in.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Google it on your phone real quick. Just see
No. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're
I'm
wrong.
not saying you disagree.
No, absolutely. So
I feel like I should be able to present more information on the matter, but I haven't read this stuff in a long time.
Right. And this is you're talking about the Jewish path to having a power position in America today. On the one hand,
that
yes.
path going back to the sugarcane plantations and such, that is more connected to power gained in Europe.
Okay.
So start there with that.
Yes.
Because I've already blown your mind there. And no, I don't want you to just take it from me, and I know you're not. So when you go home, I want you to read about the Jewish involvement in the slave trade and slave ownership in, because most of these Spanish conquistadors and what have you that came over here, now I ain't gonna even say most, a lot are Spanish Jews.
Okay.
So I don't know why it served as a surprise that I would say that the Jewish path to prosperity has been this or that, but that part of it is not really connected to Jewish people's prosperity.
And that's the thing is like when you say like the Jewish path to prosperity is this path. The problem is the path.
Because I would imagine they did the same thing in Europe.
No, but
you go to Europe, you're castigated as a certain group that does a certain thing. You're not like us, so you create communities and you work in and among each other, and you happen to do it better than everybody else.
My question is this: the narrative that I believe, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that you've established is Jewish people came over to sugar plantations, were heavily involved in the slave trade through Dutch East India Company, are owners of many of the plantations in New Orleans and in South.
Eventually moved away from plantation ownership,
yes,
right?
Okay.
Big house ownership and maintenance,
yes,
to the banking side of it. Ships that made their way over here. Trading blocks, and those are all cited in Minister Louis Farrakhan's 3 volumes of The Secret Relationship.
These are then Jewish people who were hiding their religion and not passing it on to their children.
No. You're conflicting 2 different eras.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, that's
people today who are born of the 4 generations you're talking about hid their Judaism. Jews started
No. We're saying the opposite thing.
Jews started to flood into this country knowingly in Ellis Isle and all of that, right? Yes. Under great deals of anti-Semitism, not much different than what they were dealing with in Nazi Europe.
Yes.
We agree.
Yes.
And so we learned not only because we know that, and because many of these people have gone, what's Batman's name? I don't know. Several of these people. Go find out. Bernie, Bernie, the politician.
Oh,
Sanders. And more have gone on. People, him and your boy from Curb Your Enthusiasm found out their relatives.
Sure.
On his show. 90% of the people that go on this man's show find out they're Jewish. And they thought they were just Italian.
Okay.
Their mom and he goes on deeper to tell them why.
Okay.
Because when they came in this country, they were under great deals of anti-Semitism. So you have situations where the name is changed.
Of course.
And the whole 9. So that's the only point I was making. I mean, and that can naturally lead to And there's a history of it. You know, if you, I talk to my grandparents. I mean, your grandparents really don't tell you that we're going to find a good Jewish lawyer?
My grandfather was a lawyer, which is fitting. But no, the fact. This is where
and I love it.
This is where I have a hang up
way.
with history. History is phenomenal. Of course, we should all study history, and that's how we learn today.
Yeah.
But the fact that someone could say, like, I know you've spent your life around Jewish people, you know, celebrating Jewish holidays and Jewish communities at Jewish synagogues, but what's more important than that is there were secret Jews that came over 700 years ago and hid their identities and then went dormant. The notion that
Who said it's more important?
No. I mean, what I'm saying
I'm
is,
just stating
well,
facts of history. Whether it's relevant,
but
important, not important,
Well-
that will be up to you and the viewers. I'm saying what I've spent time reading and researching, right?
Sure.
And have come to some determinations and understanding about by listening to a lot of Jewish rabbi as well. Okay, because I went through a whole era where I read books and then went and looked and see what I could find on YouTube. And there's the author standing there talking about it.
Okay.
There's the rabbi standing there talking about it. There's the white guy who's the historian who's there's Dr. Chancellor Williams, who lived to be 91 years old and was a professor here in America, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa. He studied in Timbuktu. He went to speak to and live amongst the rabbis, and he went into the different tribes to get the folklore. So
Yeah.
it's not, you know, and that's where I think it gets missed, and the issue comes in with my Jewish brothers and sisters in this country is like, you almost can't say anything in reference to something that might be considered bad.
What do you mean?
Because I tied it to their place in history, and you're not even aware of it, which surprises me for a man educated like yourself. Because, again, whether it's relevant or not today, I'll leave that for somebody else to decide. Jewish people were heavily involved in slave trading in America.
Okay.
Heavily.
Yeah. I heard you.
Very heavily.
Okay.
And so to not know that is to not have a informed place when I make a statement like, they found a way to gain prominence and financial stability through working amongst themselves. You say that was just in the banking sector.
No, I didn't say that.
You did.
No.
You said in Europe
I said
it was all they were allowed.
I said that Jews were the only people who were allowed to do it. I mean, Christians were not interested in participating in the handling of money. It was considered dirt. You look at Shakespeare. Look at
There you
Shiloh.
go. So you centered it to that one space.
Okay. To say that you have a better comprehension of Jews today.
I never said anything like that.
No, but when you and I don't...
Nothing like that.
Okay, but when...
Now you put words in my mouth.
No, hold, I will clarify.
Just don't do that.
No. Oh, you
We
gotta
can talk and we can argue. We can get heated, but I won't put words in your mouth and don't put words in my mouth.
Just did respectfully.
I never said that.
No, you just said that.
I have a
you
better
just said that I
understanding
said
of
the only
Jews
way
than you do.
No, okay. Can I clarify?
Sure.
Thank you. So what I said was, and I said that you said you had a better. I don't mean that you literally said the phrase "I have better understanding of Jews than you do."
Let's be literal.
Okay.
Let's not.
What I mean is, when you informed me about Jews today and how they choose their dentists, and I said this was not my experience, you told me that I need to ask around and I need to talk to more Jews to find out if that's true.
And I apologize for that part of it.
Okay.
Because that is a little suggestive, overly suggestive on my part.
It is a claim.
I'll take that.
It is a claim.
I'll take that.
Right.
That's overstepping.
Yes. And to justify that by saying, well, look, here's an aspect of Jewish history that you're not aware of. You're not aware of this. I am. That's my point. I think that's unreasonable. So no.
Well,
I'm not saying that
I'll take that.
Yes.
And this is where we may differ.
Yeah.
Because I think it's unreasonable for you to find yourself in such a neutral space that you don't want an answer.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, in everything that you post on your social
Yeah.
media and where you're getting to on anything but Judaism, because see, you draw a line when it comes to.
No.
Oh, stay with me.
Okay.
Because see, you draw a line and you get factually in a position when it comes to your people. But when we talk about something else, you can find your way in the middle and stay there without going somewhere. So I can't, this person can post all day or support and donate to racist policies and things, but I can't go as far as to call them a racist.
Can I respond to this?
Sure.
I never disagreed with all of your assertions about Jewish people. I never said you're wrong about that. About any of the historical stuff, I never said, hey, you're wrong about that. I never said, actually, you're not allowed to say that. I didn't do any of that. Like you said that you're not allowed to say.
I think you took it a little personal.
Well, what I find frustrating, and this is the same thing I react to online, is I find frustrating statements that what I am perpetually arguing for is logic. What perpetually frustrates me is people using facts, using statistics, whether they're real or not, to justify viewpoints that are flawed. And that is where you say that I'm in this neutral space that I'll allow everyone to say anything unless it's about Jewish people. That's not true at all. Like, again, I didn't say Jews were not involved in the slave trade. I didn't say, how dare you say that? I didn't say, don't accuse me of being involved in the slave trade. I also note how I was talking about Jews regarding Israel. I think a lot of Jews, objectively, their perspective is immoral. Does that mean all Jews are immoral? Absolutely not. Still, the position I'm maintaining.
I didn't gather that, but I hear you when you said it just now.
Yeah, I mean, I said, like, I think what's happening to Palestine is horrible. And I made a very clear point of, I think Netanyahu's a disaster. I think
but
the
you
Jewish
said,
government's terrible.
but you also double talked. Because you said on the one hand, you said, I think laws and things should be delegated morally.
They should. I said when I said it, I said in an ideal world, laws would be based on morality. We both agree they're not. We both agree that there's a lot of flaws there. So the notion that, like, this is the thing that it drives me bananas on Facebook. If I'm debating something with a conservative, they're going to say that I'm a naive, brainwashed, leftist, tree-hugging, libtard, whatever. If I'm debating with a liberal, they're going to say I'm bigoted. It's my privilege speaking, and it's and I'm all that.
Not necessarily, because I consider myself liberal.
I'm not
and
saying
I'm not calling you any of that.
I'm not saying all liberals say that. I'm not saying all conservatives say that. I say when I get in a debate with people on the side, those are things that often come up.
Okay.
And what they'll often say is a conservative will say, well, how come you're trying to be all neutral about conservative issues, but with liberal issues you always have a firm stance? And liberals often say the exact same thing. They're like, so I'm not allowed to say this, but meanwhile you tolerate all these conservatives saying their thing? And I'm like, my issue is not the stance. And my issue about, like, had you chosen to kind of dive deep into Islamic American stuff, my reaction, if I had more experience with present-day Islamic American people, would probably be exactly the same as the Jewish thing. If you were to dive into, like, the Baton Rouge public school system, I'd have the same thing. You're going to tell me a deep history that I'm not familiar with? Okay, fine. But to imply that then means that my perspective on people today is therefore invalid, I'm not saying you did imply that, but, like, if that's the argument,
that's definitely not the argument.
I'm gonna have a logical barrier there.
Here's where I made a generalization, and I'll admit that
sure.
that Jewish people staunchly support themselves. Right?
Okay.
That's the thing you took exception with.
I think
you take exception with. I want to make sure because to me that's where this kind of went.
I think
you took exception to that point.
I take exception to it not by virtue of being a Jewish person. I take exception to it by virtue of generalizations about broad groups of people are very rarely, I think, productive. I think.
But wait, hold up.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't say that because
why can't I?
You generalized, even though I agreed with it, that black people feel a certain way about certain Christian values or certain conservative values because it is purely based on Christianity.
I asked you the question. I literally
asked
it as a question.
Well, you did ask the question.
Yeah.
But that's what you think, though, right? That you agreed with that.
I don't know. I mean, if
you
you're telling me
asserted
it's
that
accurate,
basically for my. I presume that if I would have said no, I don't think that you would have.
Well, okay. Also, to go back to it, the question was: you told me that a large amount of the black community is generally
tends to agree with conservative things on homosexuality, et cetera,
exactly.
et cetera.
And I said, do you think that is largely related to religion? And you said yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you
didn't you say that for my affirmative though?
do you mean?
Keep it real. You said that because you agree with me that it is based on.
I said okay. I mean, I asked you. Had
Come
you
on,
said?
let's be honest.
Okay,
now, David.
no. I am being
Let's
honest.
be honest.
Hold on. I'm treating you
Because
I'm,
I agree with the generalization,
yes,
but
right?
it is
Okay,
nonetheless
but hold on. I didn't make
a
that
generalization.
I asked you a question. You said absolutely. If you'd said no,
But then why put it forward? Why put forward the generalization?
we
If you didn't think that, why would you suggest it
Okay.
to me? You could have asked me, what do you think? Why do you think that is? That could have been the question. But you said, do you think it's about Christianity? So
Yeah,
clearly you're
no,
certain.
no. Hold on. And here's what I don't like is again you correctly criticized me for like putting words in your mouth, and what you're doing there is kind of the same thing. When you say to me, clearly you assumed this. That's not fair. Like you don't see my thought process. Now I get it. You're hearing the words I say, and you're making a valid interpretation of them. But for me to say
Because again, I think
Yes.
because you feel deeply about issues amongst your people. I'm going to say, I guess, and you took exception to that thing, and I think you read deeper into it than certainly I was trying to imply. It like you said, I said. A lot of Jewish people very sternly support Jewish people, and like you said on your post, maybe you heard Jewish people only support Jewish people.
Right, which is why I literally asked you for clarification. Going back to this,
I think it
Yeah.
is widely known.
okay.
And this is opinion. I'm not
Yeah.
saying this as a matter of fact. I feel like it is
Sure.
widely known amongst, and again, Austin is Jewish, and Chris Fleury is Jewish, and a few of these people, and they'll tell you. I mean, I got it. These are just two people,
Yeah.
right? But I also think it's like common knowledge. It's there's whole Jewish programs out here in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
Sure.
the Tulane is
Tulane is not Jewish.
Tulane is not
Is
built
Tulane
and founded by Jews.
Is it?
My brother, you got to really read and learn the history of New Orleans. You got to really read and learn the history. I'm being insulting, but I mean,
Yes.
come on,
Okay.
come on. See, that's what happens, and this is like you said. This is
Yeah.
what angers you, and that's what angers me when people discount history, because if you want context, if you appreciate context, you can't have it without knowing the history of something.
I agree.
So
and disagree.
I say that to say, hold up,
Yeah.
keep your thought.
Yeah, of course.
When white people who are racist, or anybody, let me not just bog it down to white people, even though any anti-Semitic
Yes.
person, a Nazi, when they say that Jewish people have owned and controlled and held great deals of power everywhere they went, to say that there are a small block of people, that's in history, that's a fact. But I think Jewish people hear it, and what they hear is, that's why George Soros is funding. He's getting together that Antifa group over there. He's sending a bunch of money. People like me know that's idiocy.
Sure.
Hold on, that might be my daughter.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, baby girl, you at Starbucks?
Yeah, I'm about to tell you. You going to get her?
I am. What? Why? She call you?
Yeah, she said she's been at Starbucks for over an hour.
All right. I was in the middle of a hell of a debate, hell of a podcast. I will call her. I'm about to leave out in 20 minutes.
You sure? 'Cause I can run and get her.
Go get it for me.
All right.
Thank you, baby. Love you.
All right. Bye.
I have a great wife.
No, that's fantastic.
I'm not overkeeping you.
Oh no. See, here's the thing: is I love this. I love this, and like I
love you, man.
Dude, I appreciate you.
I may have said some silly shit here.
no.
And I apologize if I've offended you in any way.
Not at all.
Let me just say that.
Okay, here's
go ahead.
I think the thing that like I can be frustrated by stuff and not
too.
and not take and not be personally offended, and I don't shame anybody else who those two things overlap big time. I think my frustration, and here's where I am frustrated with what you're saying, not as anything, not anti-Semitic, not anything to do with Jewish people, to do with me specifically. I feel like you're making assumptions about me, and they may be based on the ways I presented myself, and that's fair. But I feel like you're making assumptions about me that aren't valid, and you're not treating what I say when I try to articulate that I don't feel a certain way as being honest. And it frustrates me because I am trying to be honest. So if I'm not coming across honestly, I feel like that's a failing on my part, and then I feel embarrassed. That's why I get frustrated.
I definitely don't think you're not being honest.
So let me say,
I think maybe you've been contradictory.
okay,
In a place or two.
and I hate being contradictory. So please, I do.
And
continue
I've
to call
been
me out.
contradictory.
So here's what I think. So what we've been talking about as regards Jewish people, and where I've been frustrated by what I felt was logical things that don't necessarily.
I knew this was going to be hot. That's why I prompted it by saying if you don't want to answer something, don't answer. Because the last thing I wanted to do is sit here and debate your Jewishness.
Sure.
And that's kind of where it's went, unfortunately.
If I was sitting here, if you were a white guy, and this conversation was about black people in America. Now, I'm not black, but if they said something about like, well, here's why I think DEI is awful because whatever, and I say, well, hold on, like here's why I think it's not, and they said, okay, but you can't disagree. Black people in America do X, Y, and Z. I would be like, well, they do, and some people do, not everyone, and they said, well, look, if you go back to X, Y, or Z tribe in Africa, here's a true story about this tribe doing this, and that's why Ethiopian Americans. I would be just as frustrated with that person.
Oh, I make that kind of tie all the time.
Okay.
To who we are and how we are.
Okay, but
it's a cultural identification.
What I'm saying
and it
is,
may not be fair to some people or whatever, but that goes both ways. See, I think that's why Minister Louis Farrakhan gets the rap he gets, because and it's kind of what's crazy is it's manifesting itself here. Because what he gets when he talks about Jewish people's role in slavery in America, from that right, that conservative right, he gets attacked. Because he can't talk about that. He could talk about everybody else's role in this or in a thing. But he can't talk about Jewish people. Meanwhile, that one day he talked about Jewish people and their role, this man went to a black church and talked all day about Negroes needing to get themselves right. There's no agency that has a better rehabilitation rate for ex-prisoners in this country than the Nation of Islam. And I'm no Muslim. I'm not part of the Nation of Islam. I'm stating that as just a matter of fact.
Great.
And so this is a person who, he doesn't attack Judaism in general or Jews in general. He's just talking about the thing.
Sure.
But it's politically expedient and works to be able to attack this very powerful individual to keep him out of the way. And so that I feel like we've created an atmosphere where there's a generation that reacts in a similar manner.
Sure.
When we engage in conversations about Israel. When we engage in conversations about the Jewish role in politics and finance and things like that in America.
I don't disagree with. I neither agree nor do I don't know enough about some of what you're saying, frankly, to have a strong opinion about it. But again, like all I'm saying, and then the thing that frustrated me is when you said to me that I was reacting negatively because you were talking about Jewish people, and I said no, it's not because you're talking about Jewish people. What I don't like,
well, you did take exception. Like I said, the heat started when I made the generalization about Jewish people working with and amongst each other primarily.
Okay, and you are, I agree with you. What you're saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, again, I don't put words in your mouth, so if this is not what you're saying, please correct me. You're saying that the reason I took exception to that is because I'm Jewish.
I think the reason you took exception to that is because as a Jewish person, you heard Jewish people are just out for control. I don't know. Something to that effect, right? You heard it in a negative manner when I was saying it in a way to say this is how, in an environment that isn't set up for them to thrive, they were able to.
And what I'm saying is, if you had been a white guy making a similar conversation about American black people, I would have taken just as much offense not because I am black, I'm not, but because I think it is a problematic connection of two things that to me do not make logical sense. So again,
Whether it makes sense or not, we've learned it should make sense because we've learned it. I've cited several things. I'm going to give you a book. I gave you a very respected man and an organization.
Yeah.
This is PBS. This is Jews.
Again,
That station
I'm not.
Do you know that station is owned by Jews?
No, I have no
It-
idea. And
see,
but also why?
I'm just citing
But hold
a
on,
reference
but-
for all of this. You take offense to something that you think is coming out of generalizations and assumptions, and I'm trying to tell you that there's a few historical points that you missed that could have
Okay.
informed this thing, right? I mean, black people do a lot of things because of the historical context of slavery and all of this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a inappropriate generalization to make. It's just saying that a great majority of us do. Just because somebody else doesn't do it, that person is an exception, or those people are an exception to the rule. That doesn't make them the rule.
Okay.
Black people eat soul food. That's a generalization, ain't it? Would you say that is an inappropriate generalization? Come on now.
What do you mean? Like,
Come on now.
I literally don't know what you're asking. Do I think it's?
Do you know? Okay, I'm
Do I
gonna
think
I'm
it's
gonna
an
assume you
inappropriate-
genuinely don't know because of what you just said. I don't want to act like you're lying, but you know what soul food. You know what black people consider to be soul food, right? Right?
Yeah.
Would you say that it is an inappropriate generalization that a lot of black people eat soul food?
That 100% no. A lot of black people eat soul food. Absolutely accurate. Now,
Most black people.
I mean, I believe it. I don't know. I mean, I would not.
I would.
Okay. Okay.
And that's just based on just common knowledge.
Now, sorry.
There's
This
soul
is
food
globally-
restaurants.
Globally, black people.
Black Americans.
Okay, already. So what I'm saying is, what you said was a general, and I know you didn't mean it in an
See,
offensive way.
now you're bogging this conversation down to something just too minute. We're trying to get to a thing.
What is the thing we're trying to get to?
Why you felt so offended by me saying that Jewish people, right, support each other in a very, very intentional way.
Why do you
And-
believe
and-
that I
and
was
then-
so offended?
and then-
I've told you repeatedly I was not offended. Why do you believe I was so
Well,
offended?
because your temperature rise. You started asking a bunch of rebuttal questions and challenging it, which I told you from the very jump. But this is fine. That's what I want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went forward, and so we can kind of wrap it up because I cited the reasons for that, right?
Sure.
I told you about Henry Louis Gates and all of the interviews, and it's a lot.
Sorry. Are you now saying that the sugar plantations are the,
What? We are not on the sugar plantation,
just
David
said to
Bush.
me- you just said to
No.
me-
Henry Louis Gates does not interview anybody about the sugar plantations when these people learn that they are Jewish.
Okay.
Why they didn't know.
May I voice the thing
when they
that's
learn
confusing?
that they are Jewish,
Yep.
and why they didn't know they were Jewish.
Understood. What you just said, you asserted that Jewish people spend within their own community, and that was part of that was a prominent feature of a feature of Jewish people present day.
Yes.
And then you said, then we looked at the reasons for that. When you say the reasons for that, you brought up Jewish involvement in the slave trade. Are you saying that Jewish involvement in the slave trade is one of the reasons for
Jewish involvement in the slave trade
Yes.
has nothing to do with why Jewish people in America today have been able to gather together and build a strong bloc, financially and politically. You are tying two different things together.
How did that second thing become part of the conversation about the first thing? When we were talking about Jewish spending within Jewish communities.
Because you made the comment. I'm gonna tell you how.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You made the comment that Jewish people have only been there 4 generations. That's factually wrong.
That is not the comment I made.
That
I asked you how many.
okay, I
Jewish
summed it
people
up a
do you
little bit.
know
Okay, I summed it up a little
right,
bit.
and-
But what you're saying is you put a stopping
And,
block.
sorry.
You put a stopping block for Jewish involvement in America at 4 generations.
Whoa. Also, I did not ask that until after you brought up the Jewish involvement in sugar plantations in Brazil and then in the South. Only then did I
No,
ask.
no.
Yes.
We'll go back.
Okay.
We'll run the tape
Okay.
back. We'll run the tape back.
Why do you? Why? Okay.
We'll run the tape back.
What do you
We went.
think was
I
the
only
genesis of me asking
I
that
only
question?
said that thing. I only said
Yeah.
anything about Jewish existence here in America as a response to you saying that there was none prior to 4 generations, basically.
Okay, so my recollection is you'd brought up these other topics, and I have no problem with those topics independently. What I take issue with, and again, not as a Jew, just as a looking at a thing logically, if we're looking at why Jews spend amongst their own community today, and then you bring up a thing, the plantations, I thought
those two
okay.
don't connect at all.
What I thought was the
Those,
reason I
those
asked
two don't connect at all.
Got it.
We're talking about Ellis Isle.
right. So this
We're
to me-
talking about the industrial
Sure.
boom in America.
Okay, so then let's say
Jewish existence during the glory years of slavery in this country almost does look non-existent. And I don't know, we could do some research and find out why then. We know for sure why people didn't identify themselves as Jewish in 1920, 30, 40, 50.
Well, again, it depends where, because there were very outwardly, openly Jewish communities in New York, and that is
As there
where-
were very outwardly, openly rich and moving around black people in New York.
By the way, diverting into history, Malcolm Gladwell has a phenomenal thing about where the tremendous boom of Jewish wealth came from. And Malcolm Gladwell, have you read much?
Educate me.
So Malcolm Gladwell, do you know much about him?
No.
So, okay, this guy's fucking fascinating. He is a half white, half black, half Canadian, half American.
That's a lot of fucking
Jewish guy.
halves.
Right, and he writes a bunch of these like kind of pop culture psychology books, Blink and The Tipping Point. And books about like why people born in January are more likely to succeed at hockey, shit like that, which is fascinating and is a really good look at like inherent bias in a lot of people. But he's got a thing about like there was this massive outflow of Jewish people, like you said, very beginning of the 19th century. Of 1900s, and then carrying through the end of World War II when there were still Jewish expatriates fleeing to America. And these people were coming here, by and large, they mostly were not rich. They mostly were not bringing a ton of money with them. They mostly end up in New York because, and other big cities, Philadelphia, they're landing in big cities.
Now, mind you,
Yeah.
I don't want to stop because you're cooking and I want you to finish.
All good.
But these are those people that are coming here. Mm-hmm. There's Jewish people that are already here.
Sure.
All right, go ahead.
Now, what these people primarily became, the primary industries they got involved in here was they were cobblers. They were making the textile industry had just started. The Industrial Revolution had just happened, so there was suddenly access to textiles. These people were not typically college educated. Within the Jewish community, reading was massively just culturally promoted, but these people, by and large, were not super educated. They got these jobs, which they were able to get through established communities, but they focused on this. And lucky for them, when they landed and when they got in, coincided with the Industrial Revolution. So they basically got onto an industry at exactly the right moment to ride a wave of that industry suddenly becoming very profitable. What that allowed them to do was send their kids to school, to become lawyers, to become doctors, and then you get a second generation
Let me tell you.
that is
Let me tell you what you left out.
Sure.
They didn't come in and do all that in that faster time that you're saying, bro. That was the whole of the 20th century. That did not happen in that fast a time. Let me tell you what they were doing meanwhile. A racist white man won't own a store in a black community in 1925 Kentucky.
Okay.
Jewish people would.
What was the I genuinely don't know. What was the Jewish population of Kentucky in 1925?
Probably not great.
Yeah, because the KKK were
Probably
not
not
exactly
great.
fans of the Jews either.
Probably not great.
Yeah.
But there.
Sure.
Not great, but there. I mean, that's the thing. I think you're kind of focusing your historical background and perspective on. Are you from New York?
No, I was
You're
born
from
in
Baton Rouge, huh?
I was born in Baton Rouge.
So but we've cited New York Jews a lot of times.
I mean, my grandparents lived there the bulk of their lives, and my parents were both New Jersey.
So I think when we think about it,
Yeah.
that's kind of the concept. Like we think, okay, that's what. But would you say Jews are all over America, huh?
Not anywhere close to evenly distributed. Wait, what are you laughing?
I just disagree. I think there's Jews all over America. Period. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, now here's the thing. We are derailed, and this is the thing, is like, you asserted that you think the reason I got heated was that you said things that bothered me about Jewish people. Sure. But the fact that it was about Jewish people, to me, is irrelevant. And by the same token, had you said stuff about, pick an arbitrary...
group, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And I perceived, rightly or wrongly, that the logic was flawed or there was an implication being made that was wrong. I would get just as frustrated. And again, it's not like I'm frustrated from a logical standpoint. I think the assumption that the only reason I care, especially about that one, is because it was about Jewish people and my heritage is Jewish, is I think a flawed assumption.
I showed you, right? And here's where I think you were being intellectually dishonest. And if you want to call it a lie, you could call it a lie.
Sure.
Because when I said that black people have many of the values that a lot of conservative whites have in this country, you said you implied. You said, would you say that's because of Christianity?
Okay. That's
Right.
not an implication.
It's also not a general question.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
why? So why Christianity? Why wouldn't it be because of Islam? Why couldn't it be because that's just what African people and like it's a bit of a that goes back to maybe it goes back to the plantation, like that's just how we are. Why Christianity? What made you say Christianity?
I mean, to the best of my knowledge, and correct me if I'm mistaken, Christianity is by far the most prevalent religion in the United States.
So you based it on some background and some knowledge in what you think.
Yeah,
because
but-
I know
but
a lot of
again-
black people that would tell you their people haven't been Christians
Yeah,
for a long
okay,
time. How do you think the Nation of Islam came to be? How do you think the Moors organization came to be? How do you think
I did not say that's because of Christianity. I didn't, and asking.
But you implied it.
No. Hold on. No.
You chose one thing.
Yeah.
And you say, is it this? So it at least shows that you understand the generalization. Whether you agree with the generalization or not, okay, I'll accept.
No,
I'll accept that you don't necessarily agree with it.
I fundamentally disagree with the notion that is how questions automatically work.
No, that's how honesty works. Because see, if you ask me a question, I don't have a problem telling you that I believe in that based on some things that I've researched and understand and talking to people that I believe this. You asked me a question so that you could have an out.
No.
That's the difference.
Whoa, an out? Why?
Yeah,
Why was it an
well,
out?
who knows? The same way you want nuance.
See, again,
the same,
you're
the
telling
same
me,
way
you're
you want to
telling
stay
me
in the
my
middle.
motive, and I don't like that. I've not done that
Well,
to you.
it's
Like,
fine.
yeah.
I'm telling you what I don't like. Since we're getting into
Understood,
things you
yeah.
don't like, and you've done that a few times, and that's fine.
Sorry. What is the thing I did that you don't like?
Constantly saying what you don't like, and that's fine. And so now I'm telling you what I don't like. I don't like when people try to stay in the middle.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Right,
And I feel and from this conversation and from what you post on the general, because it's not taking a side.
I disagree
You're
completely.
literally point.
I disagree completely.
Your point almost is to not take a side.
No, I completely disagree with you.
You know,
I-
but
yeah.
I don't want to get away from all the way away from the thing. Like you taking exception to something is fine.
Sure.
Of
course.
Always. On always. But don't either show me where I'm wrong, right? Because I gave you the references. What you're telling me is that I'm mad because you said it.
Whoa.
I take exception of it. It's not because I'm Jewish. Then what is it because? Because we've made generalizations on a whole lot of levels about a lot of things, whether you realize that or not. And maybe when you see this, you'll notice that. We both have made generalizations. But when we came to Israel, when we came to that particular point, there's just a different energy.
And again, this is very interesting. Okay, can I ask you something? And you
Please.
answer me honestly.
Always. That's what I do.
Did you, prior to this conversation,
Yeah.
knowing that like the conversation we had online that kind of led to you saying, "Hey, I'd love for you to come here and chat on this podcast," which I appreciate, by the way. What we were talking about was you were frustrated that I was, from your perspective, remaining neutral, and I felt that I was not remaining neutral, but you were frustrated that I was, taking a stance that you perceived as neutrality, which is treating both sides as equally valid, which is not fair because one side is fucked in that particular argument.
Yeah.
That was the conversation we had.
Yeah.
Going into this conversation, did you have in mind, and I will not be offended either way, did you have in mind that you wanted to get a rise out of me from saying things about I'm Jewish, so like you wanted to get a rise out of me so that you could point out.
I wasn't 100% sure you were Jewish. That's why I asked the question.
Okay,
anyway,
yeah, totally.
Just to be sure.
Well, I think I did tell you online. I think I even messaged you and
might
said,
have.
"Hey, just so you know, like
I might have forgot or something.
Yeah.
I just keeping it real. I wasn't 100%.
So my question is, did you deliberately not plan sounds like a scheme, which is again totally fine. Did you anticipate you wanting to get a rise out of me so that you could make the point that like, hey, look, sometimes people get a rise out of you in response to things, and you're making the point that I'm equally susceptible to getting heated based on frustration about a thing.
I wasn't. Number one, I wasn't trying to get a rise out of you about anything.
Okay.
I don't do. One of the biggest things I said in starting doing this is that I'm definitely not about to do the clickbait podcast.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like I interviewed Michael Misdemeanor Patterson in here the other day, and that dude is in a whole big beef with another guy in the city that I'm not going to say. And we didn't talk about that at all because that's not what I'm doing here. We're trying to have real conversations about real things.
Absolutely.
And so when I asked you to come here, that's what it's going to be. And I had no expectations one way or the other, whether we was going to sit here and it was just going to be just lollygagging, blah, 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 bells and whistles and snowflakes, or if we was going to get into a bit of a heated debate. I don't even think it's been that heated. I feel like, I honestly feel like you did take exception, and I could just kind of see that it gets to you for some reason or another. And now I'm trying to, I'm for whatever little bit of time we have left, we're just trying to get to that, I guess, because it just speaks to how crazy the whole thing is, the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and anything that pertains to having conversations about Israel and about Jewish people in America anyway.
Okay.
I think it always, there's another person, I'm trying to think of her name. She's a locations person.
Okay.
We had an exchange. You may or may not know. But she was a Jewish young lady, and we, at the time we were just kind of. It was crazy to have that exchange online too. It was about something that was going on with Hamas and all of that shit again. But I just find that you can't speak to any of it.
I can't specifically. You mean regarding
in America? In America, the sensitivity of speaking on the Jewish disposition in America, just like the black disposition in America that we speak about all the time.
Wait, sorry. What do you mean by black
disposition?
No, yeah, exactly. What do you mean? What is an example of that? So I understand.
How we move culturally, how we've been affected by what I consider to be the main thing, which is slavery in America, and then Jim Crow in America. Because see, those are two. That's another thing. It's not like you walked off the plantation. We walked off the plantation and then went on about our lives.
No, of course
you
not.
couldn't vote for another 100 years. Even after you got the vote, you still had to fight for it all the time. Our kids are still being hung and terrorized for it well into the 80s and the 90s. And you could argue even today in a lot of ways. You still have teachers telling you, I don't care that you have a 4.3 grade point average, because, housekeeping is good for the Negro and all of this kind of thing. So, we talk about black life in America and how the legacy of all of that has influenced the way we move and do things all the time. And it's not a problem.
I mean, first off, talking about the things you just said, I think it's not just not a problem. It's a good thing. We need to be fucking talking about the legacy and the damage of slavery and the Reconstruction and it was a civil like backlash against the civil rights. It's all absolutely worth talking about. I think that's all good to talk about. What is the aspect of the Jewish disposition you said in America that isn't okay to be talked about?
Well,
or did I misconstrue?
That depends on who you're talking to and when. And that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
Because we were having a conversation here, and it kind of got derailed on that point, which I think, my response is probably like a lot of people, like, that was a compliment. Your response is almost like that was ignorant.
I mean, my response is that's not accurate per my experience. Like that, which, to be fair, that is what ignorant means. And I'm not saying you as a person are ignorant.
That's not accurate per your experience.
Yeah.
That's very specific, right? I mean, that doesn't mean it's not accurate for the overarching Jewish community in America.
Right, and
When we speaking of Jewish people in general terms in America,
Yeah.
like we speak about black people in general terms, like we speak about white people in general terms, like we speak about Vietnamese people in general terms, anybody else.
but here's the thing: is had you said to me, well, the thing is, about Vietnamese people, they only eat other Asian food.
No.
I would say, that's not my
What I
experience.
could say is, Vietnamese people,
Sure.
they generally stay right back there in New Orleans East. In New Orleans, they are most heavily populated by far.
Okay, so and that's
Within their own community in New Orleans
and that's
East.
a worthwhile distinction of saying Vietnamese people generally stay in New Orleans East is not true. Saying most of the New Orleans Vietnamese population is in New Orleans East, that's either a fact or it isn't. I believe it's a fact. I completely agree.
It's a fact.
But saying, sure, that's my point. Is like
It's literally called
right,
Little Vietnam back there.
Right. So, but you're saying
All of the stores are Vietnamese.
okay, but sorry, you said it's okay for us to talk about black disposition. I don't know of examples of me saying, well, the thing about black people is they do this, or they think this, or they,
Well, you used a statement just today when you were describing, if a black person says can say something or instead of saying you're racist.
Wait, what?
Your whole thing that you wrote today about people going from one end to or the other in their language. You don't remember your post you just made today? It was.
No, I mean I do. I don't know how it's about like someone could say like someone could be a vocally crude misogynist and still help a woman up who's hurt on the side of the street and call for help.
That
on
post.
the flip side of that.
That post.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in it you described a white person's disposition, thinking on one way, and how that thinking could be better.
Whoa.
This way, right?
So sorry. I'll quote myself probably close to exactly. I'll say I said, and a white person, and note I'm saying a white person, not all white people. A white person who casually uses racist jokes and is anti-DEI could still drop everything to go help a black man that he sees being mugged. And by the same token, there are people who are proponents of there could be a person who's a proponent of BLM who would turn a blind eye to it as not their problem. Now, again, my point
Is there?
What?
Are there proponents of BLM who will turn a blind eye to it without a problem?
Oh, and again, what we're talking about is there any person out there who says that they support Black Lives Matter, they believe Black Lives Matter, who wouldn't actually go help a black person in trouble?
You're talking about the same post, but But in that post, you made specific quotes.
Okay. Yeah.
And one quote was from a white person's perspective, and the other quote was from a black person's perspective.
I don't think so. I will double check. I don't believe that's the case. And if I'm wrong, I will, of course, apologize.
It's not worth apologizing.
No, but I will. I mean, again, I try to be as accountable as possible for everything I say. Okay. Let's see. I've got the post up right here. I mean,
The quotes.
the quotes, which are all at the bottom. I mean, you put the word good and bad in quotes throughout. At the very bottom, I say, I just wish we could be more nuanced in how we define each other. Instead of, quote, she is shitty, quote, she does these shitty things. Instead of, quote, he is anti-Semitic, quote, he has donated to anti-Semitic causes. That's the whole end of the post. I feel the same way about how we describe ourselves, is the last line. It's not racist, it's anti-Semitic, and it's funny that's the difference. Although, to be fair,
not the one.
I would stand by the exact same thing with the word racist instead of anti-Semitic. Exact same thing.
That's not the one. It's the one where you said, instead of calling them racist, he said a racist thing.
That's this post. I said the words anti-Semitic. That's this post.
Well, the anti-Semitic one was separate.
I mean, I can show you the whole post. That literally is what I say in it. Yeah, there's a reference to race earlier in the post. It's not a quote thing. I literally said, there are plenty of white people that don't mind casually making racist jokes, but would also rush to help a black man who was being mugged, and plenty of BLM proponents who would turn a blind eye to the same mugging as, quote, not their problem. So I'm basically saying there are people who claim to be racist, and there are people who are just, the way they talk is racist, but they would still help somebody out. And there are people who claim to be the most progressive people in the
But
world.
hold
who
on.
wouldn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's great. But there's also people who would that same person would help most people
Yes,
out,
absolutely, probably.
but not black people.
well, and
right?
and yeah, and I
I mean,
my very next line in this
just
thing
like you
is-
said, I
yeah.
mean, these people, a lot of these people went right to the burning, right to the lynching, because you're familiar with that history,
Yes.
right? Lynching.
Yes.
That happens for God knows how long after the release of slaves after Civil War. So now you have to worry about lynching. These are family people. This is the whole family. This is, pictures of a whole gathering so that we can watch the lynching of
Yeah.
this individual. And then these people go home and they take good care of their family. They're good. They say their prayers and they send their kids to school and they just want what's best,
Yeah.
right? Does that make them not a bad person?
No, of course. I mean, there's still. I mean, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Is
But hold on, is that a bad person?
that's exactly what I'm saying. Is yeah, that's a bad person, and it's also a good person in other ways. The fact that a person does some good things does not excuse the bad things, nor does the fact that they do some bad things mean every single. It's exactly what we started this conversation with. Talk about Charlie Kirk. It's like the man said some horrible things. He probably also said a ton of good things. The good things do not make up for the bad thing. The bad thing is still bad. But if I say, hey, by the way, Charlie Kirk said some good things, that is still true. A person can say good things and bad things. We should still hold them accountable for the bad things, but also we shouldn't pretend the good things don't. It's not as black and white, good and evil as people want to paint it as. So that's where I was going with that.
Gotcha.
To this,
But
yeah.
going back to your point, though,
Yes.
I'm sure if you look back, you've made generalizations as well. And I don't think, and I'm not talking about just this interview, I'm just
Sure.
talking about in life.
Oh, I'm sure I have.
And the generalization I made, I feel like, and I stand by this, I feel like that generalization is not made with malice, and it's made with, in my estimation, somebody's gonna have to show me differently, a good bit of historical understanding.
Okay.
I would not come before you as a Jewish man, and as with my black self, and tell you that I know Judaism better than anybody. I know Jews better than anybody. So if you gather that from it, I apologize, but that is not the message.
Fantastic. And again, I'm not. That doesn't offend me as a Jewish person. That is how I interpreted it. And if that's not what you meant, I believe you. I take you at your word, and I appreciate that. That is the thing that frustrated me, and it would have been just as frustrating for me to say something about it. If going back to this thing where I asked, is that because of Christianity, or would you say?
You would have to be frustrated all across the board, though.
Right.
Because see, when I
yeah, I am.
because see, when I'm talking about across the board when it's pertaining to Jews, when it's pertaining to white people
Yeah.
in politics,
Yeah.
when it's pertaining to anything.
Yes.
Because I speak to all of it from the same basis of historical understanding.
Okay, but
It doesn't necessarily mean that all of those people in people like to make blanket statements. Politicians ain't shit.
okay.
Right? That's a
Right.
good old common one right there. If you went and shouted that in the middle of Times Square, you probably get a damn whole hell of probably more people to agree with you than not.
Sure.
And that's a shame.
Yes. Sure.
Right? Because you don't stop or start becoming a person when you become a politician. You are who the hell you are.
Right.
And so unless you telling me if all politicians ain't shit, then you could just make it plainer. All people ain't shit.
Right. Agreed.
And so, when I speak on anything I'm speaking on, and that topic just happens to be this is one of those topics when you're talking about the Jewish presence in politics and race in America,
Sure.
and of course the one that really ain't our business, but is our business, but ain't our business, the Israeli-Palestinian
Yeah, which
conflict.
I agree with you. I think we're on the same page.
See, so it gets tricky. We could talk about all the rest of that freely.
No,
I don't think
I
you have an issue talking about white racists
I'm very
quite as
very-
freely.
I'm very happy and free to talk about it.
No.
The
Let
most
me.
real issue
I
and
said
the
that
Jewish
wrong.
issue.
I said that
Yeah,
wrong. I said I feel like I actually think that you are more comfortable
Yeah.
speaking freely. on the issue of racism in the context of white and black people in America than that of Jewish people, because I feel like when
that's interesting.
somebody inserts Jewish in any part of that, any part of that existence,
Yeah, I
it
don't
almost
agree with
feels
you.
like an attack. You know, you tell much more comfortably the story of coming here, setting up your kids,
Okay.
the American dream.
Okay.
When nothing in this country is quite that clean. Not even for black people. Haven't been.
Hold on. What I was doing was summarizing Malcolm Gladwell's.
Not even for black people, having been the
Okay.
slaves of this country for 400 years.
Sure.
You know, you hear black people all the time talk about Uncle Toms
Yeah.
and house Negroes. Okay, so criticisms can be held all around
Sure.
in every aspect of anybody who's participating in the building and establishment of America.
I agree. Again, I don't.
And I'm not sure you've ever explored that in the way you did today.
What do you mean?
An involvement that might not just be all roses.
But an involvement by who?
Jewish people.
Oh, okay. I don't. Yeah, you've again said like the only reason here's another thing that I do find frustrating. You've repeatedly kind of like not demanded, that sounds too harsh, but like you've expressed incredulity and straight up laughed at my not knowing aspects of Jewish history that you do.
Yeah, because it is frustrating, to use your words, when people have taken such a stance, an opinion, and have such a you just landed where you landed on something.
What stance?
On what the perceptions are and what the history are and why things are within the Jewish community in America. You bogged it down till they landed, they set up their kids. That's like a book you just wrote right there, David. There's a whole lot that happened. There's a whole lot that happened for Jewish people, for black people, for Italians, and everybody else around the 1890s and the 1910s and 20s.
So what you're referencing that I said was me summarizing this passage from Malcolm Gladwell about the boom of Jewish economic wealth during the relatively early 1900s.
Right.
I summarized
that's the only thing you offered up very cleanly about any of it. The rest of it has been, to a great degree, attacking me.
No.
Challenging me.
Whoa.
Challenging me. Let me change my language. Whoa. Challenging me to present evidence for everything that I just said. And I don't have a problem doing that. But at what point does the exchange happen? At what point do you offer me up something without saying, oh, I didn't know that, but you're wrong? So don't, I understand your reaction for how, my body gestures and what have you may be, but you've told me that you're frustrated. You told me that I'm not being logical. You told me a lot. You said a lot here.
Yes.
Without offering me where I'm wrong, other than to say I'm Jewish.
Well, no.
This has been your rebuttal. I'm Jewish. So you're wrong.
Whoa. Okay, you expressed very clearly you don't like me putting words in your mouth. You're telling me that
you're right.
That's
not what you
I'm
said.
Jewish, so you're wrong.
Well, that's how I proceeded.
The only time I ever referenced,
Because as I just said, I'm waiting on you to tell me, like, you take exception to what I said about Jewish people working amongst themselves the way they do, and why, and the name changes and all of that stuff. I offered up, and that's what I do a lot. I find myself rattling off all of this stuff, and I'm waiting on the response, other than being mad, other than I'm mad at you for it.
I never said I was mad.
Well, you said you're frustrated.
I'm
You said the different things that you said here is I'm frustrated. Here's what bothers me about what you said, and you've told me that you plainly look whether I meant it that way or not. That's the way you took it, right?
Yeah.
You said that,
Uh-huh.
and so yeah. I mean,
bit- hold on.
other than to tell me that you're insulted.
Not insulted. Made that clear. The only thing that
Well,
I said.
yeah, you did. You told me you took it. I would say it's insulting if you told me, because what I said was, I don't want to make it seem like the last thing I wanted was for this to be me sitting here questioning the Jewish guy
Okay. You
about his Jewishness.
great. That's excellent, and I support that. I appreciate that. What I just asked was why you were expecting me to have answers, why you were surprised when I did not have answers about these various aspects of Jewish history, and you told me that the reason I should have these answers is because my stance is not properly founded, because I'm lacking these pieces of information that I should have.
Yes.
I asked you what stance, and you said my stance on everything you said. I was saying, like, I was presenting that it felt that I was saying, oh, because I'm Jewish, therefore you're wrong about these things. Most of what you said, I didn't deny, I didn't disagree, I didn't attack. I made it very clear I wasn't familiar with these things. I asked you follow-up questions just to clarify for my edification. I never disagreed with any, I don't think. I mean, of the fact now.
The initial disagreement and
so
what has carried us
so-
astray for quite some time
So the initial
is the
disagreement.
generalization, and I
Yes.
admit that it's a generalization,
Right.
that Jewish people do business primarily
Okay.
amongst themselves. And
Okay.
it has become now, after having this conversation, my belief that because you're from Baton Rouge and that wasn't your experience, then you resent that.
What I resent about it, and it's resentment is strong. I think again, the thing that frustrates me, I'm not upset about you having the belief Jewish people do business primarily among themselves. It could be true. What I followed up with was that is not my experience. And I asked you what you were basing that experience on, and you said the Jewish people you've met was your answer. And I said
That wasn't it. That I didn't bog it down to just that. It
Okay,
was the
okay,
Jewish
fair.
people
Totally
I've
fair.
met.
Totally
it's,
fair.
It's Henry Louis Gates' many
I understand.
sit-down interviews. It's the 3 volumes of a book on the history of it from
totally understood.
Jewish rabbi.
But
so it's a host
for
of
you
things.
for you to you tell me currently, Jewish people primarily do business amongst themselves. I said that that's not my experience, and I know you've apologized for this, and I respect that. So I don't mean to keep harping on something you've apologized for. Is you said that I needed to go and talk to more Jewish people because
Well, that's part of my apology. I shouldn't have said that.
Right. And that's my point is. Then what you've just said is that all the other stuff that you've expected me to have answers on that I haven't been able to have answers on, the reason I needed to be able to answer that stuff is to justify my stance. That's the only stance I gave. The only stance I gave was that in my experience, I've not seen that Jewish people exclusively do business with other Jewish people. That's
Okay.
the only stance I took.
All right.
So then when you ask me all these other questions, tell me all this information, it does feel a bit, and I believe you that this was not your intent, of you saying, oh yeah, well, and again, I'm not saying you said this. What
Nah,
concerns me is
I'm
you
starting to see what you're saying
is you
now.
saying,
Maybe-
since you're Jewish, you better be able to explain all these
I
aspects.
just
of Jewish-
expected you to
Right.
just know that.
Which I think an equivalent to you as a black man or to someone of another race. Do you see how it could come across as like, well, you're black, then you better be able to explain this thing that happened. Then do you know about this?
Yeah.
You know.
I do see that.
Yeah. So-
And I apologize
Oh, no worries.
for coming off that way.
No, it's okay.
My intent is to say what I say all the time and what I said just a second ago, because I do stand by that, and I think that's a part of the disconnect. I listened to Dr. Minister Louis Farrakhan, right? I've listened to him and a whole host of others over the years, black and white. You know, Tim Wise is a white man that I followed greatly for a long time. You know, Howard Zinn, as you
phenomenal.
know, has
People's
written the
history,
whole
of course.
history in a great way. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of popular literature out there, and then there's the ones that have been ignored to a great degree.
Yes.
You know, from black scholars. I mean, you would want to read Dr. Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You would want to read up on Dr. Chancellor Williams's History of a People. I mean, he's going to take you 2500 BC to now. You know what I mean? And all of those things are stuff that is not taught in American history classes You know, and so it's easy. We have generations of ignoring that.
Yes.
And that's the part. That's the only thing that I feel passionately is going to help us move to the next levels.
I completely agree. And that's what Donald Trump is aggressively trying to undermine, which is fucked. By the way, have you seen Black Jeopardy on SNL?
No.
Do you know that?
I've never
get
been
ready.
an SNL guy.
Do you know
bro,
the
I ain't gonna
premise?
lie.
The premise of Black Jeopardy is for a while, what they would do is there would be two, SNL regulars or their guest celebrity. It would be two black contestants, and then a white scholar on African studies. And it would be Keenan asking questions, just Jeopardy style questions about like American black culture. And the fucking white scholar is like chiming in to be like, well, historically, the reason that the black people do this is because they believe that blah 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 blah. And Keenan is like, no, and goes to one of these women, one of these men or women who respond with their just like answer of like, this is why. And it's fucking hell. And the point it's making is like, and this to me is like, and again, I don't mean to disparage history, and I think I overstated when I was like about history. I think it gets distracted. I think what sometimes happens is like, again, we're having this conversation about about Jewish people today or about my attitude towards being Jewish, and we end up on batting around historical facts, which I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but when it becomes a matter of like who knows a more important fact, and it distracts away from just like, how do you as a person feel about this today? How do these people feel today? That's where I think it can be destructive. I agree with you, studying history is invaluable and it's very important, but that is my only concern about it.
I got you,
anyway.
and I get that, man.
Should we?
Yeah, turn it
up?
in. Look, I appreciate you coming here, man.
Of course, thank
David
you.
Bush, local filmmaker, great guy. You know what I'm saying? Person I consider a friend, and I respect you for coming through and having this conversation, and like a goddamn man saying what you have to say.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. I knew in the course of this conversation I was going to say things that in my mind make sense and I may believe it, but may not come across the right way. I fully expected that. But I want you to know that it's never out of malice at all. It's never out of trying to project anything on you or a group of people at all. But we're trying to grow and learn, man. I want people to see this, and be able to see, because what they're gonna see, whether we like it or not, they're not gonna just see David Bush and Dorian Celestine or Dino sitting here having a conversation. They're gonna be seeing David Bush, the Jewish man, and Dorian Dino Celestine, the black man, sitting here having conversations about their perspective of life in America.
Of course.
And so, man, I thank you for that.
Yeah, man,
bro.
absolutely. And to your credit, I think you're talking about like wanting to learn and grow. I think people could learn and grow from the fact that you are willing to say a thing, to take a thing back, to say like, yeah, I said that, I didn't mean that this way, or like, yeah, you're right, like I see that this came across this way. Even that is such a fucking big thing that so many people are terrified to do. People have this stupid idea that if they say like, oh, I was wrong, or even like, oh shit, I misspoke, that makes them weak. It's fucking insane. So I respect you for being willing to engage in a conversation, even if it's not comfortable, and take that stance.
I love you, brother.
Awesome, man. Back at you.
Thanks again.